All right, welcome to the Under the Hood Show from Barrett Jackson. We are very happy to be here. Shannon Nordstrom is here.
Welcome, hoodies. Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up from Barrett Jackson.
You can't leave me hanging on that one,
Can
man.
you give me a little more volume in my headset or not?
I can, right here.
Yeah, I could use a little. Yeah, that's probably a little too much, but that's about right.
You're always such a complainer.
I don't try to be. I think people that know me think I'm a pretty easy guy to get along with.
Yeah, we all agreed to just say that, though. I mean, a few years ago, we were like, we should just pretend that. There it is.
It was
we can
debatable.
Hear it now.
Something just happened. Russ found the magic button. It was pushed it right in the middle.
Right in the middle. We are live here at Barrett Jackson. It is a fantastic opportunity and an honor to be here. It really is cool to be here and see this live after seeing it on TV for so long and seeing all that. It's very cool to be able to be a part of it.
And behind us, we have a whole room full of Berkeley One Guess the Color classics.
Right.
I can't see them, so guess.
We could guess the color, and there's a lot of different colors back there, every color under the rainbow. And we got to thank our friends from Berkeley One Classics for making this possible that we're here.
Absolutely.
They've went out of their way to make sure that we had a place to be on stage and an opportunity to be able to get some interviews that hopefully will happen today. This is a live event, so we're here with the engine running, literally. And so we're going to be pulling some people aside to do this.
Everything went well, and we got everything good. It was great.
Yeah, I mean, Russ and Chris were here early getting things set up, and of course, with 3 minutes to spare, they got it all figured out. So
I think I see Craig Jackson headed this way.
Yeah, that's our first item of business. We got to keep that man moving.
It does seem like this does seem like a terrible time to have Craig on the show to do this. So this is quite an honor. Craig Jackson.
Half hour carved out.
Oh, well, that's more than we figured. That's awesome.
Craig Jackson, thank you very much for joining us. It is an honor to have you on the show, and it has been an amazing couple days already to be here and see what you guys are doing here at Scottsdale. Tell us just quick, this is kind of a new situation for Barrett Jackson, right? This is the first one of the fall?
It is. Well, fall we did, coming out of COVID, our first auction back was here in October, about the same week. And we chose that because the weather's normally so cool. We left all the sidewalls off all the tents for open air, and that allowed the city and everybody to sign off on coming back to live events. People loved it, and asking them what they would like, what city they'd like to go to. A lot of my customers said, let's go back to Scottsdale. So that's how we ended up here. And we were going to leave all the big tents up. We built all the infrastructure. And we're going to, as we say, Scottsdale's so nice, we decided to do it twice. That comes from my wife. That is her tagline.
She nailed it, because that's perfect.
And the thing that the most amazing part I've, in addition to the cars, is there must be over 1,000 people working this event. And to the person at the people around the auction, the people in the parking lot, everyone I've run into seems like they are happy to be here, proud to be here, and this is important to them too. Everybody I've run into, it feels like they're just a major cog in this machine. They're so great to work with.
Oh, thank you for that. That is part of the way that we go to different events, and you want your event to be where, from the person that's directing traffic to the people taking tickets, to security guards, it's about training, it's about attitude. But our core staff, I got to give the credit to training everybody. We go from a staff of 110 to a staff of 800. So you have to train everybody in the way we want customers feel, but they also have to be educated in the handbook that we hand out to everybody, teaching them how all their jobs work.
It's working.
And that's why we felt a little rusty, because we did not do an auction over the summer. So the first few days, we're like, all right, we all got to get back in sync again. So we're used to doing it every 90 days, and it's muscle memory. It came back.
Muscle car memory.
Muscle car memory.
So, yeah, I know a lot of our listeners, of course, many people know Barrett Jackson. But I found out a little more recently, and I was pretty excited about it, because I've been a car builder in the past, and currently I'm not building cars, but I'm working on them every day in our shop, repairing them, and Shannon's working with recycling. But you yourself, you're a car collector, and you're a racer of cars, but all those cars in the collection, you can work on them hands-on. You're actually a builder.
Well, that's where I grew up. So I grew up in the shop, and as I say, I was my brother's apprentice, which means I worked cheap and I got all the bad jobs. So I learned the art of steam cleaning, sandblasting, picking and filing, buffing out aluminum and stainless steel. So not the glamorous jobs. And I learned from a lot of guys that were in their 70s and 80s how to roll metal, pick and file, lead. So we still have a full shop. Under my office is our shop. So for me, when I want to take a break, I go down and we work on the cars. I'm constantly building cars for our build series, which is on YouTube. Right now, I'm doing a 37 Bugatti, my van that I've owned since 1978, that I put 400,000 miles on and customized.
That's
I'm restoring my van back to the way it was, but it now has a LS engine in it, so it's a little bit perkier than it was.
We need to talk.
And then I also bought back the first car my parents ever bought here at the auction, and bought that in 17, tore it apart, and realized why they found it in a junkyard. It needed all new wood in the lower extremities. They had let it over when they restored it in the 60s, all the rusted out areas. So we reformed a lot of metal, took the skins off, made new lower parts of all the skins because the car was from Michigan. Salt got back into everywhere.
What was that vehicle, Craig?
It's a 1934 Cadillac V12 Opera Coupe, 154-inch wheelbase. And my mother actually drove it from Michigan to Arizona when they moved. So she was quite a car person, 5'4", driving that manual transmission Cadillac cross country, so it meant so much. I wanted to buy it back, so I restored that. We're doing a Type 57 Bugatti that I actually bought here at the auction last year. Beautiful car. Started driving it, leaked like a sieve, so I decided, all right, let's pull the engine out, reseal it. And one thing leads to another. Next thing I know, I'm powder coating the frame. So it just starts that way. And the Cadillac started, it blew a radiator out, and you had to take the whole doghouse off the front of the car to get the radiator out. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, yeah, I'm not putting this back together like this. So we might as well yank the engine. Once we did that, we got the body, and then we're powder coating the frame. So that's always how it ends when you growing up in a shop and you get something, you're like, I'm not going to do it halfway. If we're going to do it, let's just do it. Then it's done for life. And then the next car we're building is my Pontiac, which was my first driving car. So my grandmother gave me that car in 1975, and when I was 15 years old. So I hot rodded it through between my freshman and sophomore year in high school, drove it my sophomore year in high school, and blew it up drag racing it. So then I parked it, and it was intended on putting a new engine in it, bought a couple of different Pontiac engines, a Ram Air 400, a Super Duty, and never worked on the car. So now we sent it to the Roadster shop. In collaboration with the Roadster shop, they built a custom chassis for it. I said I want it to look like my high school car, put an IRS under the rear of it, put an LT4 in the front of it with a 10-speed automatic. And I said, I want it all to fit under the flat hood. And when I'm done, I want to take a picture and put it next to the picture when I drove it in high school. It looks the same, but it'll have a whole lot of new technology in it. So we build Restomods. We restore cars to take to Pebble Beach. But a lot of the cars I'm building now are cars that mean something.
I'm so glad to hear you say that you have one plan, you take out you open the hood, and then a whole plan develops after that. 'Cause I'm going to save that for my wife, because she always wonders why I did something different than I was gonna, and it just happens.
It happened. You start unraveling the sweater with a little pull on this, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, well, we might as well, if we're in here, fix
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
It happens on home remodels. I started with the bathroom. Next thing I know, I'm moving out.
We have a different house. Yeah, exactly.
We love the way that you're keeping the hobby up and the interest too, Craig, because with a lot of our listeners, we've heard people say, oh, you're going to Barrett Jackson? Well, I don't have the money to buy a $100,000 car. And we say, no. Have you really looked? Because yesterday we watched cars go. We saw some really cool stuff that would have been a perfect father-son project for less than $10,000.
Yeah,
and nice stuff.
and we do that intentionally. When we first went on Speed Vision back in '96, we only did 3 hours primetime Friday, 3 hours primetime Saturday, and we did that for a few years with Speed. They kept growing it, but they only did primetime at the expense of car. And I started hearing that. Well, I can't come to Barrett Jackson. All you sell is, and this 30 years ago, $100,000 car with a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so then we worked with Speed and started showing the whole week. And the whole emphasis was you need to get into car collecting. You don't have to be rich if you want to work on a car yourself. That's why we also have all the automotive vendors here. My goal in developing this was you can come here, you can buy a car done, you can buy a project. You have a wealth of knowledge of vendors here to help you through the process. And that's why we do seminars and teach people about how to get into car collecting. And the other thing I think that's important is the way we sell the cars and our experts and our team vetting the car. Not every car needs to be a numbers matching car. In fact, now you got so many Restomods, but the car needs to be as described. And that's being from a car background and a whole team of car people around me that help vet the cars and making sure that the description is what the car is.
Yeah, this is a tribute. We know this when you see it.
It's a tribute, whatever's been done. But now we also have two guys that help me, that have done work for me. Almost all the experts have also helped me in my personal car collection. So I know their ethics and what they look for and have helped me restore cars, especially Billups, who helped me restore Little Red, Green Hornet, some iconic Shelbys that are in my collection. But their ethics and their knowledge to look at cars. And I think a lot of guys that build, let's call it unofficial clones, don't bring them here because we know what we're looking at.
You'll tell the truth on it and show them.
Yeah, we have a tent in the back. We have 2 lifts, and if we suspect a car has got something done to it that's not described, we take it out there, put it on the lift. And,
I did not know that.
And dig into it, and then we come back and tell you, yeah, it's a rebody.
Updated description. I've seen that, yeah.
Time for the updated description. And a lot of times the guy that bought the car doesn't know it. We have to be the bearer of bad news.
Right.
We look at, but on the front side, we ask for pictures of trim tags, numbers, VIN tags, just to make sure as much as we can up front. And because we get 40% new buyers at every auction, we want them to feel confident. We're not guaranteeing the cars. We can't go and tear every car apart, but we try to make sure that the car makes sense. And then we have a whole property room outside, which I was giving a tour to yesterday, that if you say it comes with all the books, records, trophies, spare top, when you check it in, if it doesn't have it, it comes off the description. And we have a whole tent full of hard tops and spare wheels, spare engines, everything that comes with the car. So.
I loved that yesterday when at the early part of the day when the cars were going for, they weren't $1 million cars. The bidders were still treated like they were on Saturday night buying $1 million car. That was the fun of buying a car here starts at the bottom and goes all the way to the final car that goes for the highest price.
It should be. As we say, small fish become large fish. You get into it, you drive a car, you bring it back, you sell it, you buy another car, and we encourage people to do that. People, I advise them, buy what you're passionate about, but understand the use of the car at the same time. And I've sold high-end muscle cars to guys, and they drive them and go, man, this thing handles horribly. I'll drive it and go, it actually handles very good for a 1970. You may be a Restomod guy. You like the look of that car, but you want it to drive like your brand new car. You need an Art Morrison or a Roadster Shop chassis under it. You need better technology and all the creature comforts. And I think that's why you see the incredible rise of the Restomods across all platforms of cars. I just did a tour through the salon of all the trucks that are Restomodded that are absolutely incredible. The workmanship that has been done to make them, you could still take them out and 4-wheel drive them if you want, but they would run and drive like a brand new truck.
That is well, you're talking about the cars that you've had. This has been a family thing for you from the beginning. And you mentioned Little Red and the Green Hornet. Talk a little bit about that. Those are such amazing stories and backstories on those cars.
Yeah, I'll make it quick. So both those cars, in fact, I have 3 of the cars that were supposed to be crushed now because I bought the other Connelly car. Back in the day, the auto manufacturers, when they made a prototype, the protocol was crush it because it didn't meet the rules. Well, Steve Davis, decades ago, they found the Green Hornet, and it was hiding in plain sight. Guy actually drove it to gave it to his son, drove it through college. Still said EXP 500 on the side of it. There were books written, and the car was found, discovered, and validated that it was the Green Hornet. And what was the Green Hornet? Well, it was the second car. The first iconic car was Little Red, and everybody knew was crushed. Absolutely, definitively, it was crushed. After we started restoring the Green Hornet, that's when we started looking for Little Red. But Little Red was, when Carroll came back for winning Le Mans in '66, he decided he wanted to build GT 500s. So he built 3 cars, a coupe, a convertible, and a hardtop notchback. And that's what ended up. And they were all 428 Cobra jets with air conditioning. So they didn't make 428 Cobra jets with air conditioning. So the cars started off very unique. And then Little Red he used as a development car throughout its life. And first thing he did is put 2 blowers on it. Because some of the myths were wrong that he painted it Ferrari red. Once we found the car, we knew that myth was wrong. But he made it to go out and eat Ferraris on the street. That was his goal after just winning Le Mans. They didn't end up building them, but then that car, we didn't know it, kept getting updated through its history. And as all the Shelby guys worked together to share information. So we hunted that car down when we were doing the research for the Green Hornet, finding the VIN number for that car, ran it through the national database, got a hit, and found the guy on Facebook. And when Billups called him, he goes, "It's Little Red, isn't it? You think it's Little Red?" He had actually called SAC, and they told him it was crushed. But he called SAC, told him he had a '68 Shelby because it was a '68 at the end of life. So they never made a '68 Shelby coupe. Green Hornet evolved from Little Red, then was shipped to Dearborn for the Deuce to see the car, and they decided to build the California Special. And it is the father of the California Special. It had later life. Well, and I'll make this story as short as I can. It was pretty interesting. They decided then the next year they wanted to build a nationwide version of the California Special. So they built a prototype in Dearborn, and that car, when they decided not to do it, they gave it to Shelby Automotive because Shelby America in California had been shut down, moved to Michigan. And then that car they gave to Shelby went to Ford Advanced Vehicles, who was doing all the work on the GT40s, put an independent rear suspension in it, Connelly fuel injection, which was computerized fuel injection. So a computer running a car in 1968 with a potentiometer, you can change the richness, the idle on it. Way ahead of its time, had the same transmission they had developed for Little Red put into it. And then Shelby Automotive painted it. Sonny Fee, who came to Michigan, who was their painter, painted it candy apple green. And that's the way the car was found. They actually sold it off a Ford lot. They took the independent rear suspension and also had 4-wheel disc brakes. So it had a lot of innovation of its time. When we restored the car, we went to all the people that had either built the car or their sons and got them to help us restore the car.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
And
cool.
I did 2 series on it for History Channel, The Hunt for Little Red and the Green Hornet, and they're on my YouTube and Barrett Jackson's YouTube channel. The first cut was an hour and a half on each one because there was so much stuff to go into. But having the original blueprints, hunting down the original parts for the IRS, and actually getting a lot of the original parts back on the car was absolutely amazing.
It's still fun, isn't it? Even I mean, big picture, we've got this whole thing, but each car that comes across and each car that it's still fun, and to see that the way you're telling this story, someone else is telling that story right now about a car they bought yesterday. That's the coolest part about this whole thing, I think.
It is. You know what I loved about restoring these two cars was getting the kids. We actually found the gentleman through social media. We did crowdsourcing when I unveiled Little Red, and we got on our Facebook, and we had a ShelbyCoops.com website. And this one gentleman went on the website and said, "My dad said the car was crushed." All right. Then he finally showed the pictures to his dad, and he goes, "That's Little Red." There was a lot of things that were very unique about it. And make a long story short, he actually moved to Arizona. So I reunited him with the car.
Oh, wow.
And he gave me pictures that nobody had ever seen of the car back in the day. And that's how we decided where to build it and how to build it, through interviewing him and having the photographs of the car back in the day with both blowers on it saying EXP 500. Interviewing all the living Shelby guys then became a quest of mine, and what was it like in the shop. And then when we sold a couple years ago, when we came out of COVID, the Super Snake Cobra for the first time, same thing happened. Guy called, said, I built that car. And his story and the guy that built Little Red, if you put them both like a detective in two separate rooms and interviewed them, their stories were identical. Carol said, "Put it in the corner. Don't tell the Ford guys what you're doing." And
That's perfect.
go to parts, get the parts. If they ask any questions, don't answer any questions. Tell them you're working on a project for me. And hearing that story from both, and these were both Carol's personal cars, the Little Red with the two blowers and the Super Snake with with blowers on it.
I love the fact that when someone's selling a car too, I've noticed that you guys, the staff here, you treat each car that if I'm selling a car, you give it that important. If it's important to me and I'm selling that car, you guys realize that and help me.
Well, as we say, these are people's babies.
Yeah.
And you may have a car that's been in the family for 50 years and it's emotional to sell it. You may have built the car yourself. And that's why we treat the cars the way we want our cars treated.
Yeah, it's so cool to see. And when they roll across, it is just, to see people excited to bid, and when they get it, it's so much fun to be in that room and see that happen, or watch it on TV. It's not quite the same. It is.
No, and people come here all the time and say, "I had no idea," especially January Scottsdale, but we have all the big tents up, so it's pretty much the same. That it's much more than just an auction, but the auction action inside, especially when we hit Saturday tomorrow, will be just like Scottsdale. The quality of cars. Selling Sammy Hagar's Law Ferrari tomorrow with him here up on the auction block, and Camilo Alvarez's 2018 Bugatti Chiron. Today we're selling William Shatner's Jaguar, so just left Captain Kirk a few minutes ago, and he'll be up on the block. Celebrities, their cars, but the common part is they love cars.
Right.
Both Camilo and Sammy spec their cars from brand new.
What else is going up tomorrow? There's got to be a few that are on your radar. Not the big celebrity, maybe somewhere not towards the end of the night. But what's going up tomorrow that you've noticed and we're like,
I like the white Viper in there. I kicked myself for not ordering one in 17 because I ordered my first new car I still have was a 1997 Viper Roadster, and I still have it. And when they ended, after the orders were done, I was like, I probably should have ordered one. And I was like, do I need another Viper? But when I walked by that, I was like, that's probably how I would have spec'd it.
is there anything that has rolled across that you've just couldn't let go and you bought it?
There's been a couple. My rule is I go off the auction block, I go down, I stand there and buy it. I've bought a few cars on the auction block. I bought charity car, the first VIN 1 GT 500. That was sort of spontaneous, and when Edsel Ford was...
It happens.
It happens. And it all went to a good cause. But they built me a very cool car. So, and the reason I bought that VIN 1, juvenile diabetes, we've been a big supporter. I think we've raised $6.8 or $7 million for him.
Good job.
But also when Edsel told the story, of all the new things in it, I'm standing there thinking, well, it's got supercharger like Little Red, it's got computerized fuel injection like Hornet, it's got IRS under it, all those things came together in the 2020 that were pioneered back with Little Red and the Green Hornet. So after I bid on it, I was showing the Green Hornet there, and I leaned over to Edsel, and we're doing the photos. I go, I want to paint it like that car. And the plant manager just puts his head down. Edsel says, whatever you want. And so I got to go back to the factory, watch him build it, but he told me what a pain it was for them to do it. And I had no idea when I made the request. They had to take the body, put it together, send it to Penske to paint it, make it just like the Green Hornet, bring it back, disassemble it, put it in the racks, because my car actually wasn't just VIN 1. A lot of times they'll make their pre-productions, and they'll start making some cars where VIN 1. This was the first car down the line, and it had to be right. And so I watched them build it at Flat Rock. We brought the Green Hornet back there, put it in the lobby. After they fired it up, we drove it around and put it in the lobby and had both cars sitting there looking 50 years apart.
Well, as truly, I was not a car person just a few years ago, and I don't even know if I am now. First timer here. It's such a fun event, whether you're buying cars or into them or not. This is well done.
Now, all the vendors, it's the atmosphere here. It is an automotive lifestyle event. It is not just an auction. We kicked it off with our party under the stars the other night.
We were there. We had a good time.
Yeah, it was great. Now, once the sun goes down here, it's wonderful. Little hotter than we had anticipated, but we have 750,000 square feet. Every car selling from now on is indoors. So people should come out and take advantage of Barrett Jackson here.
What a fun time. Thanks for, I know you have to go. You are busy this weekend, so I know you have to go.
Yeah, I got a day job. But cars are my passion. I love them. I love the people that collect them, race, as you mentioned earlier. I'm founding member of a track out here. I love tracking cars, and I just love the whole lifestyle of it, and love going on road rallies and just the camaraderie, and that's what you find at Barrett Jackson.
I get to do this for like the first time on the Under the Hood show. Can we get a round of applause for our guest, Craig Jackson? Thanks so much for coming. I know you got to go do opening ceremonies, so thanks so much.
Kick it off. Thank
you very much.
Well, there you
Get
go.
a quick picture with you? Sure. Just all of us stand up here quick, get a picture.
Oh, why my eyes are
Yeah, we're still on. Yeah. We're still on. Hey, you two.
Yeah, just a quick picture here. We really appreciate you coming by. Thank you very much. Great show.
The radio guy and me right now with that silence, I am vibrating inside right now. I'm like, oh no.
I called an audible there.
I'm glad you did, yeah. And we've got some folks here watching it, and we have it live. If you guys have a question, we can get that hooked up in just a minute. And if you're joining us, we can start. I'm going to tell our producer, Doug, we can start taking calls now, too. 866-594-4150. If you're in the area and you want to call and answer your question or ask your question on the phone and just walk over there and do that, you can do that, too. 866-594-4150. What has caught your attention here? What is in the is it yesterday's day one?
Well, we got here yesterday, and we're just kind of
2 days ago. That's what.
Getting set up, and like Russ said earlier, the thing that caught our attention right away was some of the early vehicles, and it was so inspiring that this ended up happening. Mm-hmm. I wasn't going to get a bidder. I wasn't going to get a bidder number, but I did get a bidder number, and so I actually tried to get in on some action, but I didn't buy anything yet. So
are you? Let me ask you this: at this point in your life, Shannon, you're what, 40, 48,
38.
Are you
that was
able
a lie.
yet?
It's the metric system.
As long as you've been doing this, as long as you've been in this business, as long as we've been doing this show, are you ready yet at this point in your life to talk about the opportunity you blew yesterday?
It wasn't that big of an opportunity blow, but it was personal.
Yeah, it was. It was a little rough at first.
Yeah, I used to race when I grew up on the farm, on our farm. We bought two ATC 93-wheelers from the neighbors, and we fixed them up and made one out of two, and they're quite valuable now too. I wish I would have kept those. But
that's what they all say.
Eventually, through the salvage business, I ended up with a 250R, and then I eventually bought a Suzuki Quadzilla 500 at the salvage auction. that
The
had
fact
some
that you're
suspension
48
damage.
and live that long is amazing.
Yeah, and so
Yeah, you
when
haven't seen him race.
my parents would never let me race.
Wasn't that good?
We played around the
He was
farm and we did all that stuff, but they never wanted me to race. So as soon as I got on my own, the first thing I wanted to do was race. So I went racing on the ice.
Hold on. I want to point out the irony of your parents not wanting you to race, but letting you guys rip around the farm like savages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
Helmet, of course, right?
Yeah, sure. But this first vehicle that I got to go race was this Quadzilla 500, which was a monster. And I weighed all of 140 pounds. You know, I still don't weigh very much. And that machine rode me. But I learned how to tackle that. And eventually I got a 250R. But yesterday when we got here, we're watching outside, just looking around. And what are they doing? They're rolling up a 1987 LT 250R Quadzilla. And I don't have a bidder number. That was tragic. I was
a nice one. Spare parts.
Oh, it was garage kept. I was going to make a friend quick. I couldn't even react fast enough, see if somebody would buy it for me, and I'd pay them. But that was a good value for that machine, and it was perfect shape. So yeah, that caused a problem for me right away. Did not expect a Quadzilla 500 to be here at Barrett Jackson.
And then you were thinking, well, since you weren't going to get a number, and you would have if you had seen that. But I talked to you, look, come on, let's just go get you a number.
Yeah, that's what happened. That's exactly what happened.
866-594-4150. Let's go to the phones and talk to John. You're on the Under the Hood Show. John, what can we do for you?
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller. I've always been a Chevy guy, but a friend of mine had a Ford Excursion for sale, and I purchased it from him, and I just love those vehicles now. They're great vehicles, but when you own a vehicle, you tend to learn its inherent weaknesses, and I've been having troubles with the brakes on those holding up. Okay, tried the slide pin kit with the lube in it, and that worked for a little while. And then that went away. Tried replacing the brakes actually several times, and I keep having the recurring problem of those brakes holding up. Have you guys heard of that or run into that similar problem? And do you have any suggestions that that would help me out?
So when you say holding up, are you wearing them out? You're grinding the pads off to nothing on the rotors?
No, never let it get that far. I check my brake pad thickness and don't let it get down to where it's wearing on the rotors or anything. But what has happened, and I've noticed this happen after the winter time, is driving down the road, the brakes tend to heat up a lot, and I've actually had to sit on the side of the road for a while and let them cool down and pump the brakes and try to get those calipers to free up. What they do is you depress the brakes and then it stays clamped.
Yep.
On the rotor, okay? And it appears to be the slide pin issue in the caliper. So have you run into this, and what suggestions do you have?
Well, what I think is happening, have you replaced brake hoses on that yet?
Yeah, when I initially got the vehicle, went through and replaced all the brakes, did like the ball joints up front and the stabilizer bar stuff, right, and the hubs and everything, and replaced all the brake hoses. So those were all replaced. Then within, I would say, 20,000 miles, I had an issue with the rear brakes starting to hold up. So we did the slide pin kit, and that helped for a little while. Then those held up. So replaced them with another set of brakes, and then those ended up holding up. And I haven't installed them yet, but I've gotten a set of power stop brakes, hoping that they're a little better quality than the other type of brake that I was using. But is this going to be a recurring problem, or is this a real inherent weakness to those Excursions and like the F-250 Super Duties?
No, so it shouldn't be. I think I know what's going on here. So we've have many of these friends, our friends with these, and they beat the heck out of these things, and the brakes don't wear out typically. But a few of them had a problem with the brake booster. The brake booster would hold that master cylinder like you're touching the brake pedal down like just a 3/16 of an inch. And it was enough that once the vehicle warms up and you get under hood temperatures up, it won't release the brakes completely, and you wear out the front and rear brakes. Exactly what you're having. So you're pumping it, and it allows the pedal to come up. It releases that vacuum and the suction, and your brakes release. So I would say the next time you get these things to stick and lock up like that,
it sounds like he can replicate this problem pretty easy.
Replicate it when you're on the side of the road. You know, make sure somebody's with you just in case, but get out under the hood, get yourself your line wrench to crack the two hoses loose, the lines on the master cylinder. Just crack the front one open a little, crack the back one open a little, hop in it. If it moves easily right away, that's what's going on. Your brake booster's bad and it's holding that thing in. You're going to have to replace the booster. They did had there was an update available for that. So I think that's what's going on.
When I heard you tell the one gentleman on the air that day too that even if you think it's the booster, and I thought this was brilliant, if you just release the two bolts that hold the master cylinder of the booster just to take that pressure off and see if your brakes free up, that could be an indication right there that you've got a problem between the boost. So start from the beginning and work to the end and start releasing pressure, and you'll find out where your problem's at.
Yep, just loosen those two nuts up.
Okay, now if I do that, go ahead.
Yeah, loosen the two nuts up that hold the master cylinder to the booster just a little bit.
That's
like
different than what Russ had said the first time.
Yeah, instead of doing the lines, that way you don't lose any fluid. But if you loosen those two up and it's fine, you need to replace that booster.
So master cylinder to the booster.
Correct.
And loosen those two up. Now, am I going to have any issues with the brakes being spongy or having to bleed the system after that?
Not if you loosen up the two nuts that hold the master cylinder.
Leave the lines alone the first time.
Yep. And then you'll know.
Okay.
So all you're doing is creating you're just creating an air gap between the master cylinder and the brake booster to cheat to see if that's where your pressure might be getting accidentally built up inside the booster.
And if that frees things up, that's an indicator that I have a problem with the booster then.
Yes.
We believe
exactly.
so, yes.
And
John,
we've seen it.
Good luck. Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. All right, let's do this now. You go grab Jim, get him set up over there. And while you're doing that, I'm going to do something we don't normally do on the regular show.
What do we not normally do?
Folks that
There's a lot of things we're not doing
for
as
sure.
our regular show here, and it's awesome.
But if you're new to the Under the Hood show and you're here watching us live, this is Shannon. You guys have owned a family-owned recycling yard for 50?
Yeah, we've got a salvage yard. It is a professionally, worldwide recognized auto recycling facility. And this show started as a little infomercial. It was an idea of my mother's to promote our business. And I eventually brought on this really smart guy named Russ that started working for us after 8 years of doing the show. And he can tell things to people. His mind works amazingly. And so we started doing this show, and it became very, very noticeable to people that we could help people over the air. And so we are the motor medics, we call ourselves. And so that's how that got started. And we've been doing it now since August of 1990, this show started. Yeah. And so we have a service center that we opened up. My dad opened up, and Russ runs that service center. He's the manager there. And so he's hands-on with vehicles all the time. And so we're dismantling cars that are brand new, that have been damaged in transit sometimes even. And we get to see those cars right down to we take them apart down to nothing as part of our dismantling operation. So I get to see all the vehicles and all the parts. And Russ is actually working on hands-on with his team to fix things. So together we get a really good view. And being in the auto salvage business, we get to talk to dealers. We get to talk to insurance companies. We get to talk to repair shops. We get to talk to tow lots. Our view of what we see of the automotive world is a very interesting perspective. Mm-hmm. And so we can bring some of that, what we see, to the table, along with us just being car lovers ourselves.
I always say that it's interesting when someone calls in about their 99 Silverado, Russ can tell them what wire's loose. You can tell them that the 99 Silverado went through a lot of those parts, and I can say, yeah, who cares? Why does that matter to the regular listener? Because I don't understand any of that. And you'll say, don't speed through your turns, or don't,
And we grew up in a house, and Russ grew up with a neighbor down the road, and we've been around cars now that are the collectibles since we were kids.
That was the weirdest flex ever. I grew up in a house.
No,
I mean, that just seemed like you were bragging.
I'm glad I had a house.
Yeah, good point. It's not bad. Yeah.
But, we grew up around Tri-5 Chevys, and Russ grew up with, you had a litany of things with your neighbors and your friends in Texas.
I did. When I was growing up, when we were in Michigan, where I started younger, we picked up a 1925 Model T from a gentleman who had one, a Teleshack Trucking, and it was it had sat. The original owner they were paving the streets in Detroit, and they bought it for a company truck. Well, what happens real quick after that? Model A's came out, and you go faster. Who wants a truck that goes 20 miles an hour? So it got parked for a very long time, decades. And we picked that thing up in 75, father-son project, went after it. But our biggest help came from a neighbor named John Locke. And that neighbor was an engineer for Ford. He was 80 years old in 1980. So he thankfully introduced us to a lot of people and helped us build it. But we put that together, and then my father and I picked up a Shelby Mustang that we started working on that was going to be my car, and things happened, and it wasn't didn't work out the way I thought it would. But teenagers and cars never do. But anyways, yeah, we had a lot of things. There was a lot of automotive background for all of us, and
yeah, so we were able
enjoy
to
it.
bring that literally to the table. And so when we sit down on our show, this is what a lot of people don't understand. I don't know if they believe it all the time, but you can watch it now on YouTube. We just got started on YouTube, and we're building that channel up. But we sit there with just us. There is not a
Well, like this.
there is no
Without the
computer.
wires.
We have a notebook where we write down notes, usually of people's names and who they are. But we're not checking any resources. We do let Chris go to the computer. I was still thinking of Craig Jackson being here.
A lot of people confuse this week.
Yeah, we let Chris go to the computer, and he'll fact check us sometimes on maybe the type of a car we were talking about. But other than that, it's all organic, and that's fun to do.
And I grew up, we rode in cars when I was a kid. And then when I was 16, 17, I got one. So that's my contribution. So it's really balanced, I think.
I think it's great. And Chris, he is part of one of the largest markets in our area as the #1 morning drive show, the Chris and Doc show. So he brings the radio wisdom to us. And I've been doing that since you're 20 years old.
Yeah. And if I would have known you guys were going to talk as long as you did, I wouldn't have done this, because as the radio guy, I'm like, let's move it along, guys. Come on.
So now you do need to introduce our guest.
We have a guest. Jim Schwarzkopf is here. We met you the other night, and it was such a great time hanging out with you. Introduce what you do here at Barrett Jackson and what you do.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much for having me, guys. So again, Jim Schwarzkopf, thanks for having me. Since 2009, I've been running the Barrett Jackson Endorsed Insurance Program, and that all came about from Craig Jackson. I was introduced to him back in 2008. I'm an independent insurance agent. We write insurance all over the country. We primarily focus on folks with high-value homes, collections of all kinds. Got into car collections just because wealthy people collect cars and things like that. And so we were able to do a great job for Craig. And Craig says, gosh, why don't we introduce this to the Barrett Jackson family? And so we have. And since then, it's been a great ride. I've been to every Barrett Jackson since 2009. I've got my son that works with me in the program as well. We got friends here with Berkeley One, which is awesome as far as what they do for an insurance program. But it's just been, it's wonderful. I'm not a car guy myself. But I love car people, and that's what makes this job really, really fun.
Why would we talk about this quite a bit, but it seems to take on a different note here. When someone has a collector car, a car that's that they're polishing more than they're driving, why not just insure it with your car insurance? I have car insurance. I could insure it through them. They said they would. I mean, why do I come to someone like you?
Yeah, the main difference between regular standard car insurance and collector car insurance is how the loss is settled after the loss. And the main thing, there's different terminology, but the main, so an actual cash value is what you have for your daily driver. Every time you put miles on it, it depreciates. They're able to put used or aftermarket parts back on the car after a loss because their responsibility is to put it back to where it was at the time of the loss. Conversely, with collector car insurance, it's done on agreed value. And that means you and the insurance company agreed. You and the insurance, yeah, not agreed, but you and the
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, you and the insurance company up front agree on what the value is, and then at the time, God forbid, but at the time of a loss, then they stroke a check for what that car was insured for. There's also different coverages in there for if it's a partial loss, using the original manufacturer parts that were on the vehicle when available. Going to the shop of your choice, listening to Craig a minute ago and talking about the Roadster shop or whoever it might be, if somebody built that car, you don't want to take it to your local Chevy dealer to get it repaired. You want to take it back to whoever built that car
Right.
and get it back to where it was. And as we watch these natural disasters that are going on, and my heart goes out to those folks down in Florida and North Carolina, but there's going to be a lot. Flood is a covered cause of loss for a car, and Ian, a couple years ago, there's a lot of cars were totaled out, and that's where this agreed values is a big deal.
How much of your job is therapeutic? When someone calls you with a loss, there's a part of that is talking them through what's happening.
I can tell you a story on I won't tell specifics about it, but a very wealthy man lost a very high value car. And when I saw him, he was in tears. He wanted the insurance company paid him for it, big check, but he wanted that car. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a matter of, hey, I can go buy another one, because he couldn't. It was a one-on-one, a 30s car. But yeah, when you look at these, you got some dealers that say, hey, it's, that's my job. I'm just trying to make a few bucks off a car. But when you get true collectors, like Craig was talking about, where it means something to you, it's the car your parents drove, or it's the car you always wanted that you couldn't afford when you were a kid. 79 Corvette was mine. A buddy was able to take his girl to the prom when I was a kid, and I was like, God, how cool is that? So yeah, it's really, and it's a passion. It's just like any other, whether from the insurance perspective, whether you're collecting art, whether you're collecting jewelry, wine, whatever it might be, it's your passion. And when you lose something, it takes a piece of you.
When I say the word weirdest, what's the weirdest loss? What jumps into your head as just weird, or how? Please explain how this transpired.
Well, I could tell you some stories, but I can't really think of anything that jumps out, because, we certainly have had some fraud things happen where,
Sure.
How did that happen? And then, the insurance companies go and investigate it, and, one thing leads to another. But yeah, it's much like anything else in life, there's always something unique that you haven't heard before. And you're like, how did that happen?
We talked to Berkeley one a lot. What if I buy a car here today, even if it's not super high value, and I'm going to bring it home, and I'm going to get into that. What's your quick advice on what I should do? Things that I wouldn't think of, rodents, or just how do I start this process of having a collector car?
Yeah, it's just like anything. It's communication. Talk to your insurance agent. Say, hey, I bought this car. I paid X amount for it, and then walk through and have them educate you on how it should be insured. The biggest mistake we see is where somebody will go to a direct, they'll call an 800 number, or they'll call a program and go direct to them, which is, could be fine, but then they don't talk and they don't coordinate with their current insurance agent that's helping with their house and their daily drivers, making sure the liability limits match up, making uninsured motorists match up. It's just that communication to where you have a true plan on, making sure that that's insured properly, so that when something bad does happen, you're not surprised. And that's the thing that you want, that we try to alleviate when we talk to our clients or prospective clients is, hey, let's take out the surprise. Let's ask questions you're not thinking about and answer them, so that when something, because I don't want to have that phone call where somebody calls me up and says, geez, Jim, this isn't covered. Why didn't we talk about that? And because I've had those phone calls.
And if you come here to this event, it is kind of interesting, I've noticed, and it shouldn't surprise me. I mean, but you can walk in here never having done any of this or known any of it, and find people who will help you here every step of the way, shipping it, insuring it, what you want to do to, and you certainly can buy things to add to it here.
Right, and that's truly is, and listening to Craig talk about it, that's what he wanted to build. And so when you do, back just over our shoulder here, we have a table back there where we can talk to people about insurance, and we can bind insurance here if need be. Next to us are a Woodside Credit that can actually finance these vehicles, which is really a unique way to buy them. Gets people into the hobby.
Yeah, we were kind of interested yesterday when we saw the monthly payments in
Yeah.
the bottom corner on some of those cars.
Yeah.
It seemed odd, but cool.
Yeah, it is. And, it's a good use of money and things like that. Interest rates are pretty good still with those guys. And then right next to them is the shipping company, Reliable, who's the best in the business of transporting vehicles. And then there's a Canadian shipper right over here as well that can take it north of the border. So it really is. And then you go through the vendor space, and you can buy anything from a pillow to a chairlift. I saw they're selling fully enclosed car washes. which is you
Oh,
know,
I
you
did.
put-
We walked
yeah.
by that quick. I wanted to go check that
Yeah.
out and see what
I
it was
mean,
all
how
about.
awesome's that? And then you can, go to a big fishing trip up in Alaska, whatever. That's what, as far as the lifestyle, that's there's a lot to see here other than just the cars, which are beautiful.
So you said you're not a car guy. Have you bought a collector since you started doing this?
I have not.
Okay.
I'm the kind of guy that I don't have the mechanical know-how that
You need
when
both sometimes.
when it goes out and breaks down, I'm going to be frustrated.
One
or
can
whatever.
cause
Send
the
it to
other
me.
for
I'll
sure.
take care of it for you.
And my wife's not going to want to smell the way those cars smell.
Oh.
And then, but then these Restos, I'd love to have one of those, but I cannot believe what those things are selling
Yeah.
for. They're beautiful. But that's what I would want. I would want something that's got to have all the creature comforts and everything about it to really make it enjoyable to drive. And but boy, those price tags on some of these cars are going to be selling tomorrow is incredible.
What was your first car? Your very first car?
My very first car was my grandmother's Cutlass Supreme Brome that had a 442 engine in it. Beautiful car, beautiful green with a black Landau top. Claim to fame on that car was I left the key used to be on the ignition, or on the ignition used to be on the dash, and my dad always taught me to always leave the keys in the car. And I left the keys in the car, and all of a sudden I see this car go driving away. I said, "Gosh, it looks just like mine," and it was mine. And come to find out, a couple days later, after they tried to arrest my dad because somebody was robbing gas stations with it, and it was found less than 10 miles from our house, parked on a train track, hit by a train.
Oh my!
And they had put 1,000 miles on it in like 36 hours, and it was found still in Central Ohio, found 10 miles from our house.
I was hoping it would end with, it turns out your dad was a
We
gas station burglar. And
Well, this guy was robbing gas. He was gassing,
Sure.
taking gas and going. And sure enough, they came like on a Sunday night. They came looking for my dad. This big sheriff came to the door, and he's asked, "Is this Sam Schwarzkopf here?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's thinking I did something.
That totally.
And so it was funny. I mean, funny to me. It wasn't funny to him.
And nowadays, that car would be a Berkeley One Classic.
Oh, it would be.
And it's
Oh,
green.
yeah.
It's green. I'd dress the color.
I'm going to go green and black.
Yeah.
Russ?
White. It's white.
He said green.
Yeah.
I know. So
And
how many?
I look at there's a couple Cutlasses out there now, and I look at I think they're more 69, 70s. Those are just I love those.
Is that going to be the
kid.
one you get if you do?
I love Impalas for whatever reason. I love how they change the body style like almost every year, but they always had that straight line from front to back. That I'm a symmetric guy, so I always like that.
So like an 04, 5, 6 Impala? No.
Not about that. Well, maybe.
I remember Mom used to drive this. My dad had it from the company, but it was a '79 Olds '88 four-door. Mom called it baby green because it was that lime green. What a boat!
That the velour interiors,
the
crushed velvet or whatever.
Yeah, like the Cordoba.
Yeah.
Everything. So how
Cushion
many people?
seats.
Air
Like
pillows.
a couch.
It's a sleep number. Couch.
Hey, that's a good idea.
They haven't done that yet.
It's quite the idea. $1 million.
Look it up. This is probably there. So Jim, how many people? I thought I might be crazy, but I thought I heard somebody yesterday rushing through here saying, "I've got to get in that car that we just bought and get it to here at a certain time because somebody's picking up to move it." And he was going like multiple states away. Do a lot of people actually hop in the car that they purchased here and drive it? I can imagine if it's a super rare muscle car, it's going in a trailer. But are there a few that they just hop in and drive home?
There are a lot of them. Which
So they've
would
got to get
surprise-
insured.
I would never. Well, yeah, they need to get insured. Most insurance policies have a 30-day window where you can add a vehicle. So most people do have insurance, but if they've never had the agreed value and setting up, they should do that. But yeah, and that kind of blows me away when somebody will get in a car that they don't know anything about or very little about, and then go drive it somewhere. But yeah, we've seen people. We'll see the car, 2 miles down the road, sitting on the side of the road because there's only a splash of gas in it. Because they don't come with full tanks of gas when you leave here. So yeah, I don't. That would be something I wouldn't do, but I've definitely seen it.
Well, we're happy that's the answer because Chris has offered to drive every car that I've looked at on the block.
That is my service,
He's got he goes, "I'll drive it home. I've got that."
Yeah.
He said he can do it in 2 days.
I'll offer it to anyone. If you buy we'll put a value on it off air. But if you buy a car here that is I'll I'll drive it to your house for you, no problem.
We should have bought the restored 71-2 Chevy motorhome yesterday.
That
That
would.
you could have slept in the back. It was
Yep.
that thing was nice. Somebody spent a lot of money on that vehicle.
We
My
could have
goodness.
just been rolling the studio as we went across the country.
It could have been
Wouldn't
our
that have-
studio.
Gosh,
that is an interesting thing though, and that's where greed value comes in. When you have the car, you're getting it because we talked about it a lot yesterday. A car will go up, and no matter how much it sells for, even if it sells for an elite amount, you can see on a lot of them that there is no way that the sale amount will ever cover the amount of work and the just the money, the cash money
Just
they
one second
put
here.
in.
Can we just take a quick break here? Because they're doing the national anthem. I know that's a big deal to Barrett Jackson. We'll just take a second here and let them do the national anthem. Because in the background, I'm sure that's going on.
That's a good point.
Let the bidding begin.
That was, I learned something just now.
What's that?
When you watch a video on a screen at an event, the screen is 4 milliseconds behind the live. We are 4 milliseconds away from where she was singing because our video was completely in sync with the sound. And then hearing the people cheer from the other room, that's a great, I love that feeling, that hearing that.
I may have derailed your question completely, but I just want to make sure we missed that. I know that the patriotic theme here for Craig Jackson is very, very important. And there's, our country's crazy right now, but it's still our country, and we got to be proud, whatever the circumstance. That's for sure.
God bless.
Well done, Shannon.
You
You
know,
derailed us there, but you brought us right back. Good job.
Like I said, I've been doing this since 2009, and I make a point, and you guys tomorrow, if you haven't seen it yet, you should go in the auction hall and actually witness it. It'll bring a tear to your eye
Yeah.
if you start thinking they got a huge flag that drapes over top of the block, and it's just incredible. And it really, they recognize all the veterans and active and first responders and everything else. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, I caught it yesterday. It is pretty moving. So, yeah. Jim, thanks for coming on the show. And
Hey, I appreciate you having me. I thank Berkeley One for allowing me to come here. Great company doing great things. So
thanks a
appreciate
lot.
it.
Right on.
All right. Thanks, guys.
There we
Thank
go.
you very much.
you.
And I should mention, too, that if anybody's here and wants to ask a question, you can call 866-594-4150, or we can come out and get oh, there we go. Hold on, we got to get a mic hooked up. And if you don't, we won't pull you onto camera. So we can, you don't have to worry about how you look. So if you want to come on, you can do that. Hold on, we'll be over there in just a second.
Hey, Tammy, can you run out and bid on this bike?
Is that the other one you were looking at?
No, it's.
What's is it the three-wheeler you're looking at?
Don't talk about it.
I mean the ice cream truck you're looking at. Is that what it? That is the things that are going on here. Checking it.
I think we're good. Oh, look
perfect.
at that.
There you go.
Works slick.
Oh, they're selling an '84 Honda CRF 250R dirt bike, and kind of another, like I
looks
said,
fun.
right in that same era.
Yeah, that's about my speed right there. The dollar amount.
Yeah, $3,500
Yeah,
right
there
now.
you
No. There
Tammy,
is
can
a car
Shannon
I
get
want out
that
there,
and
but I
drive that
can't
around the? No, yeah. And, I mean, it wouldn't.
I was never good on two wheels. I was always dangerous. I needed 3 or 4.
My wife says I can buy that Gone in 60 Seconds Shelby out there. That's
Okay.
68, but I'm going to live in it
Okay.
forever, and then I'm gonna die in it very soon. Because after we spend that money, we're gonna need a little life insurance to pay for it.
Yeah, there we go.
You think
You'll be
Benji could
fine.
have taken this Aztec through the lake? Wait till they show the picture of this.
Oh, wow.
You think that would have made it?
Yeah,
We joke about Aztecs on the show all
that
the
is a
time.
nice Aztec.
Look at that. They're selling a 2002 Pontiac Aztec that has got a lift kit on it.
Yeah,
And
I've never seen a lifted Aztec.
That kind of
The
looks like
Aztec
a.
is the unsung hero of the automotive world.
I bet it's got a tent.
Somebody had to say it.
That car looks like a current. Show of hands. Do you think that car looks contemporary right now? Yeah. Look at Shannon. Look at the people raising their hand.
It looks like a golf cart that would be in the villages.
The Oh, it does. The Aztec looks more contemporary now than it did when it was out. All right, Tim from Berkeley One's over there. You want to? He passed the mic off. Hi, welcome. What's your name?
Michael Licamelli,
Where are you from, Michael?
Scottsdale,
Okay.
originally East Coast.
Cool. Got
I'm
a question?
an original H2 Hummer guy right from the beginning.
Okay.
And I'm reading about the new Hummer,
EV.
not the truck, but the EV SUV. And I'm hearing all kinds of things that they're going to stop making it, which I'm of course interested in because that would
Make it
take
worth
my
more.
2002 and make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah.
Do you hear anything at all about GM stopping to making that line?
I've got 3 of those Hummers in my shop right now, H2s, that we're
Not
working
the-
on.
not
They
the
were
EV.
saying that 30% of them are in the shop all the time.
Oh,
Well, no-
not the EV, the actual H2s.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I've got 3 of them in there now. One of them for an engine, but we're working on the people. Absolutely love them. They just don't where we're at even in the salt. They just don't rust other than the frame and a little
Great
bit.
car.
The
The
thing,
EV.
the thinger that I've just noticed on the Hummer EV is that they have recently put a program out with incentives to buy them on a lease per month basis. That's always the sign of the end of something. It seems like it made me nervous when I saw that because when they first came out, there was a bull rush.
Yep.
And everybody was thinking that the dealers were bringing them in and they were going to get $130,000 a piece for them, and they did in some cases. But like in our community, I think there is 5, 6, 7, 8 of them sitting there with nobody buying them. And
All the same color.
And so there is a price drop happening. Now GM just came out and announced that they're going to on-badge the Altium chassis name. They're gonna disconnect themselves from that. So they've got some new technology in their batteries already that are allowing them to compartmentalize these batteries into different structures to match different cars, where this idea was kind of like a Pinewood Derby car where they had the same chassis underneath all of them, and then they would customize it to make it look like what it might be. And that's a very generalization.
And which they do sometimes. I mean, like when we talk about like K-body styles or that.
And that's
that is
very
something
common.
they do. This
But-
was to another
But
level.
this is taking a 4,000 pound battery pack and using it as the structure of your chassis. That vehicle is amazing. I mean, I know Russ has looked at when they first came out, and they are an amazing vehicle. The capabilities of that vehicle, I've read some of the tests where they've taken them out and raised heck with them. And when they don't break, they're amazing what they can do with them. There's no doubt about it. But I have not heard of them actually canceling yet, but I am seeing some signs that make me nervous about if there's enough momentum
Yeah.
for the investment that they've got there. That's for sure.
We could see that they would drop the torque they have and their rated horsepower for electric way down, rebadge it, if they take the Altium platform out, if they change what they're calling that, then it's a little easier for them to say, well, this one is rated lower because it doesn't have that platform. And then they can reuse that platform in a different vehicle, but then they can justify lowering the price, like Tesla's done with a lot of their vehicles. They changed the Model 3 changed, and you can buy it with, well, if you want it for less, you're just going to get the short range version instead of the long range version. So we could see that happening with that Hummer, because that Hummer EV, when it came back, a lot of people wanted that vehicle. It was great that they did it and they offered it, but the price point, all the people that wanted one couldn't get one. I looked at trying to get one when they first came out, and I tried to get on the list. I couldn't even get on the list. And then the dealers had them, and they wanted more for them than what we thought it was way over the list, the retail price. So I ultimately didn't get one. And none of my friends were able to get them, but we're seeing them run around our town now. But I've heard a number of people that do have them that have had a few issues with them. So maybe it's a blessing I didn't get one.
Tim, I'm good here. If you can turn it on. If you do have
I
someone
thought we were picking up too much open mic noise from the
No,
fans.
I was
Just
noticing the
exhaust. They'll shut off
Yeah.
in a little
I
bit.
was like, why are they running that? Oh, because there's
Moving
cars
cars
in here.
around,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
brilliant. You wouldn't want your customers all to die while you're
Yeah.
doing something. Do
Got
you have
another
another question to go? All right.
Audience
right on.
listener?
Hello, this is Roscoe. I don't really have a question. I have a comment to share on a story you guys were talking about. If someone buys a car where they drive it off the lot here and try to make it home.
Yeah.
Well, I started a new business after I survived leukemia and I'm retired from being a math teacher. I'm buying and selling cars. So I tried to sell one in Indy at that other auction, and it didn't sell because I got it in there pretty late. It's a 69 Chevelle convertible, red on motor, white top, 396 big block. So I had to drive it home.
Oh.
And first time I saw it was at the auction, and it got a new grass tank installed, and apparently one little clamp didn't get on there.
Uh-oh.
And I'm driving from Indy and crossed over Cincinnati, and it's by the Cincinnati airport. And I smelled gas when I stopped to use the restroom, so I just parked it. And yeah, sometimes you can drive them. it was a beautiful drive going down the highway. A lot of thumbs up, people waving, and people smiling. And every once in a while, I'd hit it and take off, and people would clap. And it's a beautiful car, and I really enjoyed driving it until I smelled gas.
Yeah, there you go.
But I had it towed 40 miles south to a little town called Hornet, where I had worked on a car before, and I put a for sale sign, call Roscoe. I've got 2 calls on it already. But that other auction house keeps 21 days in their inventory, and when the 22nd day comes, I think Mr. Timothy might buy it.
Well, you know what? A sale I was at recently in a smaller venue, we bought a car, and it was not. It's a nice car, but not exciting. It was a Fiero. It was a car that had been kept in a museum for 10 years.
That was nice.
It was very nice.
But the guy that sold everything that day, he said, he goes, I will not let any of these cars drive away from here because I know these tires are so old. He said, I just don't want anybody taking off down the highway with these tires that are 10, 15, 20 years old and then having them blow apart and ripping fenders off and causing problems on this, what is a beautiful car, just because the tires are old.
Roscoe, thanks. Oh, go ahead.
First thing I do with every car I buy is put new tires on it. Safety first.
Yep.
You know, people don't realize they just dry rot and they can kill you.
That's something that's really got to watch out for in the collector cars.
Thank you, guys. I enjoyed it.
You bet, thank you.
Thank you.
That I hate putting tires on cars. It drives me nuts that tires just are a wear item. I hate buying tires so
I'll
much.
put plenty on yours.
Yeah, I know. I can't stand
It's
that.
like, didn't we just put those on last year? It's been 4, Chris. It's been 6. It's been 8.
Didn't we
You know,
just put these tires on? You have 94,000 miles on. Okay, we can get into it. I think the Hummer EV, I want to come back to that. So let's come back to that. But we do have a call. Let's talk to Pat in Minnesota. Pat, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Well, I got questions regarding documents on vehicles. You're buying collector vehicles now, and I just purchased a Porsche that didn't come with any records, but on the Carfax, it shows almost complete records of all services done at Porsche dealers. Now, Porsche dealers can go into their records and look at it, but of course they won't tell me because I'm not the original owner. My question is if I have all this documented on Carfax, can I create not a fictitious, but another document that's
facsimile.
a hard copy? Yes, that says this is the work that was performed, this is the date, the mileage, and what Porsche dealership it was done at. Would that count as records going forward?
So, for myself, if I was going to, let's say I'm coming to purchase your Porsche now, and you
Yep.
hand me a book that has records of service done to the car, and you tell me this is a service record based on the Carfax reports because I do not have the originals, I'm going to feel pretty good as a mechanic who has a shop that automatically reports to Carfax because I know for a fact that they can only get it from there. They're getting it from the shop and it was reported. But if you tell me I just wrote these down, I may question it. I'm going to look at the car very closely because I have nothing to go on. I would rather have nothing and use my own judgment than having something made up. But if you are very clear with it and disclose these are records that came from Carfax, well, then I know it's been to the Porsche dealer. And if you sell that car, if a person takes it into the Porsche dealer, while by law they can't disclose who had the records done or what was done, they can say, oh, yes, we're going to enter this in, sir. Pat, this car has been very well meticulously maintained, but that's all we can tell you. So let's move forward from now. But they will tell you, because I've had a couple cars that I've asked the dealer about, and they said, well, it's had quite a few things done to it. It was good. Maintenance needed to be done, but we can't tell you who owned the car for those records because it's a privacy thing. But I like the way that you looked up the Carfax. We do that all the time at our shop. In fact,
Yes, we do.
When Shannon gets in vehicles in the auto recycler at Nordstrom's, he'll sometimes call me and say, "Can you run this VIN because we're trying to figure out odometers and things like that. Maybe it was a burned vehicle or something, and we use that Carfax service history to find one of the latest dates."
One of the things, like Russ said, if you've got a printed Carfax, and Carfax is the big brand name that everybody hears about. There's other people that do the same thing, but that is the kind of a big brand name. I would use that in conjunction with a car that looks well maintained to support what it is.
Oh, I got you.
Because
yeah.
I know I can't get those individual records. And it's always fun when you go look at a car and somebody brings out the expandable accordion binder that's got, every receipt
Everything
ever
in it,
done
yeah.
on it. But if that's not available, I'd love to see a chronological history of the miles and what work was done. And if it makes sense and it's documented, because I can go run it again in Carfax, and you wanted to summarize that somehow in your listing, you could, but I'd have the supporting document of the Carfax with me.
What about going forward if I'm a gentleman who does 85% of the work myself? Oil change, I document it in a piece of paper with a sort of a fictitious garage name on it, my garage, that I've a Tim McAllen garage.
Sure.
I would just keep
I
a
list
log.
oil changes.
Keep
and
receipts.
that's basically what I'm doing, a log.
Yep.
Keep
One
receipts.
other quick question for you. What would you do? This car had a light minor accident. It had bumped something, and then they had to repaint the front bumper cover. That's always going to be on the Carfax, and that's always going to be a ding against the car. If I can able to contact the owner that had that accident and sort of interview him and find out actually what happened, document it, put it in my documentation, does that take some of that decreased value of that car's minor bumper accident?
Interesting
Well,
question.
You want to see a picture?
Yeah, exactly, Russ. I live in this world. I mean, our life's a wreck. We have bought and sold cars that have been fixed up as repairables for as long as I've been alive, literally.
Yeah.
And so the thing that we would always do is you would have a photo of this is what it was, this is what has been replaced, this is what was done, because it is way too common for people that are trying to pull something over on somebody to say, oh, this was just a light bump in the front end. And that's where the documentation along with a used vehicle inspection are crucial. If somebody mentions that a vehicle has had damage of any sort, I want to have somebody that knows what they're doing give it a used vehicle inspection. And I'm not talking about whether or not they've got the perfect paint job on it or that sort of thing. I want to look underneath that car and structurally make sure that it's been put together properly. A lot of the newer vehicles, they've got some different types of metals, high strength, low alloy steels, different things that they have that have to be done correctly. They have to have sections replaced. They can't be sectioned. I want to make sure that this hasn't been just patched together by somebody, and I'm going to find that with some knowledge with somebody with a used car inspection that you can spend $100 with somebody if you're going to go spend 20 grand, and it would be a good $100 spent if they put it up on a hoist and find out that there's been a over-pulled frame rail and it's stretched, and you can just see some of this stuff. And that's why I think if you're going to go back to a previous owner to document it without pictures, I don't think it's going to do you a lot of good. That's
Okay.
or an actual estimate of what the actual repair was done and where it was done at.
So I got you. Like you don't have to trust me. You just have to trust this guy that I said you should trust.
Well,
so it's
I
not
want
gonna,
to see, I want to see something documented.
Right. Yeah. Does that help you out there, Pat?
Okay.
What's the exact year and model
that
of this?
does. I'm just trying to hunt it down. It doesn't increase the value that much, but obviously a minor ding hits
Sure.
the car that caliber a little bit.
What's the exact year and model of this car?
I got it's a 2011 Carrera base Cabriolet.
Well, that's a Berkeley
in
one
a
classic.
in a non sort of Porsche color. It's
Oh,
No,
it's-
no, 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 no.
Stop.
People are turning from 4 blocks away in this building right now, trying to figure out what.
They are.
We're gonna guess the color, so don't tell us any more of the color.
I had to hear what kind of Porsche it was again.
It was a Carrera Cabriolet.
Okay. Who's first?
It's a powder blue color.
It is a weird goldish brown, not standard Porsche brown, golden weird. They're weird color.
So something in the bronze range?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
It's red.
It's okay. Not just any
it's
non-Porsche.
Porsche.
That's a
It's Porsche
non-Porsche
red.
color?
No, it's not. He said it's.
I'm just going with it
you're-
anyway.
You're not using the accidental clue. I like that. That's very honest of you. What color is it?
to me,
Yeah. Sorry, Pat. Yes. What color is the car?
it's a dark metallic blue.
I was right. Yeah. No. I mean,
You were
of
right.
you guys. I mean, I was closest. It starts with B, and I said brown.
I said blue, so isn't
Oh, yeah,
light
no,
blue
yeah, you're-
Well, I'm
closer
trying
to
to get
dark
Chris
blue?
Carter to buy it from me. so I can buy the 360 behind them.
I don't believe your documentation. I'm not buying. Is that? Well, I was going to ask that.
I kind of
Is
want to
that-
run out and buy the 84 Ford Mustang SPO on the screen right
There you
now.
go.
This is what we need,
Stay
Shannon.
on the phone,
a
and
giant
producer
TV.
Doug will
for-
get your address and your size, and we'll get you a hoodie courtesy of Berkeley One Classic, celebrating 50 years of collector car insurance. We almost had an accident here with a Berkeley One Classic.
Yeah, those were.
It was my blue one here. It's
You pulled the model to straighten it, and it's a pullback car, so it almost
yeah,
launched.
So these cars are sitting, if you're watching YouTube now, or you can go back and watch it if you're not. They're sitting on the edge of the desk, and one was off just a little bit, and I thought I'll just pull it back and
You almost
park it where
launched
it
it into
goes,
the
and it almost
stands.
took off. I let go of it, and I still had a finger on it because it went to take off. And
I feel-
Well,
I
Tim,
feel-
do I get agreed value on this car? What do we agree the value of this model is?
I feel bad for
$100
Pat because he's trying to document all of the things with this car and his cars, but apparently he's not trustworthy seeming because he's going so far to do it that there must be some sort of something off about him. What are you doing over
My
there?
kids are roasting me on my phone here because I got up and crossed in front of the camera.
I wondered why.
all right.
Yeah, that's
Well, it's
fair.
good to know it's still working. I
Yeah.
want to give a shout out to all the technical people and support people here at the Barrett Jackson Auction.
Yeah, they helped us out get this thing going.
They got us rolling. It was smooth as butter. Just getting this baby
It really
going.
was.
So
It
it really
on
was
their
nice.
end, everything was perfect. I mean, the
Yes.
things we were. Yeah. That was,
Well, what we asked them to do worked perfect. It was probably my lack of thinking ahead, but that's a lot. You move this whole pickup. So this is not our studio. Our studio is on the picture behind. You've watched it on YouTube. You've seen it. That studio is still there, and 100% of it exists except for one laptop, which producer Doug has in his hand, which is part of our call system. But everything else is mobile to go. So to carry this thousands of miles and in a box and get it out and plug it in and have it do what we do with radio, podcast, and YouTube and
I'm stunned at
recording
how
and-
well it's going. And this show,
When I
is-
got here, guys, because I did not come early to help with the setup.
Right.
That was perfect.
I felt some stress.
there was some stress right then, and we want to mention
But
it's
I
going
think,
out.
I think it was Tim, the guy that dropped the line, the hard internet line down from the upper level up there, ran it along the carpet with 8 minutes to spare, and found an adapter somewhere in a junk drawer in the back room to hook up to the computer.
That was amazing.
That was what we needed to be able to talk to people live.
When we're done, I want you to go over there and pull up some of that tape. That's gaffer's tape. I want you to learn what it is and how.
That is gaffer's tape. I could hardly get it off the roll.
Yeah.
You pull it up at 90 degrees. Don't
Really?
rip the carpet up.
There you go.
We'll
I
just leave it.
could hold up body parts with that.
I want to mention we're live on YouTube right now, and that will stay there. But also portions of this will be used on our show. So if
Radio.
we do a radio show, and we do
All of it will go on podcast.
podcast. So just if you want to see it more or listen to it, 866-594-4150. We've got John in Kansas. John, go ahead. John, are you there? All right, we lost John for a second. I'm going to put him on hold, see if you can get him back. This is kind of cool being able to talk to Doug.
Yeah,
without
he doesn't have.
glass
He's not
between
in a
Not in the
bubble.
box?
We have him in Boy in the Box at the studio.
Does he always look that old, or does he looks in
It's the
person?
distance. I think it's the distance.
Did you say old? I thought you meant good.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
I'm glad we do not have a big distracting TV in our studio.
Oh, I want to switch places
We
with
have
you
a small
so
distracting
bad.
TV, but
This
it
is the
doesn't-
biggest distracting TV in the world to me right now.
And when I'm trying to talk to you, I have to have you turn this way, and I
I
can
know what, it's
see
perfect.
it just.
I can look right at you.
And,
Perfectly.
yeah.
Right now, we're watching a '82 GMC Sierra. It's a two-wheel drive. It's a custom truck, and it's crossing the block. It's got the custom upgraded like the 90, 91 Suburban type front end on it, but it's kind of a
It's like they found it and just they clear coated it, kept the patina on
but
it.
it still looks great. It looks like it's super straight.
It's at 18 grand.
Yeah,
Looks like
it's
the
up to-
18 pickup truck if they made a pickup truck in the 18.
And the box inside, though, is rhino lined or something. It looks really nice inside. But I would bet we don't know what's under the hood from what we're seeing.
That's
I
got to
would
be
bet
like an
it's-
LS conversion or something.
right.
I'm sure to have that kind of money bringing.
But still, if you're looking, so if a high school kid, I mean, even me driving that thing would be great going back to work every day. But if a high school kid was looking, so that thing sold for around 18. What do you get? What does a kid get? 18,000 buys a what? A really nice Impala or something? You know, I mean, would you rather have that or that cool truck? I mean, that's a great way to get into a collector car and have something it can be a project, you can add to it. You could come back and sell it and upgrade later. I mean, there's so many things you can do with that. And then a lot of that happens here at Barrett Jackson. It's great watching these cars go through some of the stuff that's just amazing.
One of the things about an auction like this at Barrett Jackson, and I have people who call me for advice. They'll say, hey, we want to get a parade truck. And I had this was Kevin Nyberg from Nyberg's Ace. He contacted me a while ago. This has been it's an old story, but he said, hey, I want to get a parade truck for Ace. And he goes, this is what I want. How do I get it restored? What do I do? And I said, Kevin, go buy one. I said, just go to an auction and buy one. And what happens is there's so many people that do these cars. Like when we were kids and we put models together, it was fun. You know, you put your model together. I always wanted to paint them before the glue was dry. They never turned out real great because I wasn't patient enough. But there are people that literally in this industry that will put these vehicles together and they'll bring them here to sell them. For a lot of them, yes, they're trying to make a buck, but they're also, it's a passion of theirs. They love doing it, and then they have them for a while, and then they sell them. And there is no way, if you're a non-skilled person, that you can afford to pay someone the hours and the dollars it costs to build these vehicles that you see it go across the block. And so you can come down and literally give somebody $50,000 for something that they've probably spent $100,000 on 5 years ago. And they're moving on from it. They're doing something else. And you couldn't commission that. If you had the money, you could commission it. But why? It depends on where what your why is in the vehicle, the passion for the vehicle.
Yeah, I know we built a few cars at our shop. One of them was a Cadillac hearse, a 57 hearse for the Heavenly Hearse we built for a funeral home. It had exhaust cutouts and everything on it. It had a setting right on the dash. We had it labeled.
Got me.
What's that?
Go ahead.
We had Church Mouse and Wake the Dead, so you could flip the switch and it was loud, and it had air ride and 4-link on it and everything. But that car, when he was done with it, we had somebody else that painted it and went through, but he had like $100,000 in that car. But it was a car that, if you went to buy it, would probably be a $60,000 car. So if you're going to buy a car, buy somebody else's car that they're done with, and they've tested it. If you build it yourself, you got to go through the testing. It's kind of like putting a studio together. Once it's done, testing. You can sell it and make some money. But yeah, you have to. It's great when somebody else has already driven it. They say, "Hey, we put 10,000 miles in this car, problem free now." After we fix the problems, and you're good to go. I think it's a good choice.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Tim in Kansas. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Tim, what can we do for you?
Hi there. I've been having trouble with a wheat truck that I run twice a year, and it sits a lot. Got a brand new crate engine in it with a new carburetor, and if we drive it more than 10, 15 miles, it starts running great, and we don't have any trouble. But it's that first 10, 15 miles is a long day. But I have been told or advised that what I need to do is drain all the gas, find the best premium I can find, and only run enough in it to keep it running that day, and then treat it and let it sit. But don't ever fill it up because it'll go bad.
This is an appropriate question for where we are, right?
It's storage
It
of
is.
classic and
Well,
collectors.
and I want to get a little
anything
more
else.
information. We'd like to know, what is this wheat truck that you're speaking of? What kind of vehicle is it? What kind of motor do you put in there? What is that crate motor?
It is a C75 truck, and it's a 427 crate to replace the one that was in it. And the timing chain, I was told, had gone bad, and instead of going to all the trouble, we just put a new engine in it, and it runs great when it runs. But
So it's a 427
and I
truck,
would
427
do
truck
this.
engine with a carburetor on it and everything.
yes.
And then that would be the it's like the big block, like the 366 427 family.
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so that's what he's got there. So, and what year? And that's probably in the 70s. Does it have electronic ignition? Has it been converted, or is it?
82.
Okay. So in the truck, that's probably just still straight HEI. They probably don't have any
No,
carburetor or anything.
HEI with the carburetor.
Yep.
Yeah, that if you don't use it enough to go through that fuel, and it's got a large tank, and you got a truck, you're not using it that much. Yes, definitely keep less fuel in it, but you're going to have to put an additive in it. You want it down far enough where, if you know you're going to drive it for 50 miles, and you could put 10 gallons of fuel in it, you'd be good. I would suggest probably that, but use an additive. So, like Stable, their product that they have to put in the fuel tank, they make one for storing vehicles, and the vapors that come off of that fuel stabilizer will protect the inside of the tank from
And
rusting.
he's got a big steel tank,
When
too.
you got-
Even without it being full?
Right, when
Okay.
you've got one that's metal like that, and that they developed it for that. So that's they're not a partner of ours, but they do have that product, and I've watched them. I actually watched a demonstration at the SEMA show. They had a big tank, and they showed how one tank had rusted and one did not because of the way they had that set up in there. They had a little divider in there. But that's what I would do. You need that, and if it's hard to drive for a while when it's cold, it's probably because the carburetor's getting gummed up. If you got gas, the fuel's getting old, that could have caused some varnish and stuff in the carburetor. So you get the thing cleaned out, running like it's supposed to. Maybe a little more choke, a little more in that choke thermostat when it's cold to give it a little more fuel. Run it, and then keep that fuel stabilizer in it. I think you're on the right track.
That carburetor is going to be, if you don't use it that much, it will be a problem over time. It just always will be. And if you're going to keep this truck and keep using it, you might consider doing an aftermarket throttle body fuel injection, like a Holly Projection or something, because that's going to be an ongoing problem with that carburetor.
Is there any,
Throttle body would be perfect for it.
is there a long going? Can he just run it this way forever?
He
Can
could,
he get
but it's
a
gonna
rough
be-
10 miles twice a year?
It's going to be hard to drive. If you're going to go with throttle body injection, you're going to want to drive it more, Chris.
Yeah,
Not a lot more, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be your daily
You're not
driver.
gonna worry
but
about it.
You'll drive it
Yeah.
more. Like, if it's comfortable, of course you drive it more, I would think.
Tim, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to John now in Kansas. John, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I've got a 1994 Ford F-350 pickup dually with the direct injection Power Stroke diesel. The first year they put the direct injection in them, and it hasn't been run or drove for about 5 or 6 years probably. And I tried to start it here a couple years ago, put new batteries in it, started it, and started to run all right for a while. And then I thought, well, it's running. I'm just going to, because I was trying to get it to run so we could use it again. And I was messing around out in the yard, and first thing I knew, it just shut off like you turned the key off. And I went back over there to start it, and everything was plumb dead. I mean, I didn't have no ding-a-ling on the door when I opened it, or the radio didn't come on, or nothing, you know. And I left, so I just let it sit. And I come back out the next morning, and I thought, before I went in that night, I put the battery charger on, so the battery be charged up good. And so I was going to take the battery charger off and just set it inside the pickup for right then, because I didn't have time to really mess with it that day.
Sure.
And when I opened the door to put the battery charger in there, all the bells and whistles went off inside the cab, you know. So I thought, well, that's kind of strange. I'll see if it'll start. So I just got in it, and it started right up and run about, I don't know, I'm going to say 30 seconds, 45 seconds or something. Nothing. Let me get away from the vehicle, and first thing I knew, it just died like you shut it off with the key. And I went back door, and the same story was like the day before. There wasn't no bells or whistles or nothing, you know.
Sure.
Just plumb dead. So
That's fun.
I don't know
That's a
what to
fun
do,
problem.
you know.
Well, I think what's
Yeah.
going on, if you had a loose connection at the battery, it would not do this. It was actually, if you took the battery cable off while it was running, don't ever do that. But if you did, you're pulling power there, but it should still technically operate. I think what's happening is your ground from your body is being lost, and when you lose that, it's basically like turning the ignition off, because you're pulling the power cord out of the socket, you're cutting the circuit. Whether you cut it on the hot side or the negative side, you're cutting that circuit. So if you've got a ground, and they've been famous for that, they'll get corrosion on the ground wires. If you look at the battery, there's a couple wires there. You've got the main black negative on both batteries, and then you have a smaller black wire that is the ground for the body. That has to be good, clean, and tight. If it's not, and you lose that to the inside, you're going to lose the power to the dash. You lose the power to the dash, your key is no longer supplying voltage to the fuel injection on that diesel engine, and it's just going to shut off. It's going to be dead. So that's where we would go after to try to find that. And that's why it came back, because sometimes if you've got a weak connection, if you shut it off, a temperature change will move just like the metal in a thermometer moves, and it'll bring that connection back again, and it will take off and run, and it'll work. It'll be kind of a false sense of security.
Yeah.
Does that help you out there?
Yeah, that could be the issue with it, because I was, when I started the next morning, it was a little bit cooler than it was the day before when I started it, But that could be the possibility. I don't know.
Is that a good if this problem specifically, if he just lets it sit and tries it every 2 weeks, and he sees the difference in temperature being the thing, then that's a free diagnosis, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. John, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's go to Texas and talk to Jonathan. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Jonathan, what can we do for you? What can we do for you?
Hi, how are y'all doing today?
Fantastic.
So, yeah, thanks for taking my call. I have a 2001 Dodge Ram, 5.2 liter engine, the manual transmission, and I've been having a real problem with it. The code for the truck is throwing P0135, and it's the heater. It says heater ground for the upstream O2 sensor, and the truck is getting it. Sometimes it'll work great, and sometimes it won't work at all, and I get intermittent power loss, and I can't figure out what it is. And the truck is actually at a mechanic shop right now. It's been there for like 4 days. They've been trying to diagnose it, and they're telling me that they hooked the truck up to a scope, and it looks like they're getting good communication between the PCM and the scope for the weight pattern on the truck, but we can't figure out what it is.
So it's only that one sensor that has it's showing the ground on it?
Yeah, so it's only the upstream right above the cat. I bought an ultra power O2 sensor first, and that's a pretty cheap sensor. So I had changed out both the sensors. And then after it threw the code again for it, I bought a walker, and I put a walker in there, and it was still doing the same thing.
Okay, so
it's only for the upstream sensor.
What I would do is, if I was diagnosing that in our shop, I would take my lab scope and I would go right to the computer, one with a ground at the battery, and then the other side I would use for the O2 sensors, and I would look at each O2 sensor. My scope will do up to 8 at a time, so I would look at, I don't know if yours does just one or if you've got one, but if you did, you're looking on a lab scope at the waveform pattern so you can see what's going on, or even the voltages. Check one sensor at a time, and you should have 3. The back 2 should be similar, and then the one that's working in the front should be similar to the other side that's dead. If you get a good signal, let's say all 4 of them show the same signal and they're working, that tells me my computer is bad or needs to be reprogrammed. There's a software issue. But if I have one with a weak signal, I know I either have a problem with the wiring or I have a problem with that sensor. So my next, let's say I check it, and I'm still not thinking it's a computer because I've got 1 out of the 3 that's got different voltages. Now, to eliminate the wiring, I'm going all the way down to the sensor, and I'm checking directly at the sensor at the connector. And if it's weak there and it's weak at the computer, I've definitely got a bad sensor, even if I've got 2 or 3 of them. There's just something faulty about it. But if it's good all the way at the computer, all 4 have the same voltage and they're fluctuating like they should, then I know my computer's bad. But I don't like to just throw a computer in something without knowing for sure that's what's wrong. So we're gonna test all those first with a voltmeter.
In that era, though, that computer is going to be a hard one to get. You know, there's not as many of them around. So
There's a lot of them that are hard to get, even newer ones.
Jonathan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Looking at the chat here, I'll come back to that. I want to ask you a question, Shannon. And this comes from working with you and knowing you for so long.
He's got a distraction. There's a 01 Trans Am custom coupe on the screen, and I was reading the book, and you saw it was in that, right?
I did not look at the book on that one.
Yeah, it's an upgrade.
Got a monster motor in it?
I believe it was upgraded, not like super, but I thought it was 700 horsepower.
Unless you're going to let me go bid on it, stop. I'm going to go over there and say, hey, can you turn off this giant screen behind us?
Is it noticeable that I'm watching?
To me, it's crazy noticeable.
Look at that.
No, but seriously, that was not what my question was about.
Well, okay, go ahead.
My question was, and I normally, I wouldn't even, this is something that I wouldn't even say, but the word junkyard, how come when Craig Jackson says junkyard, you're quiet, but if anyone else says the word junkyard.
But he didn't even tense up over here.
I did,
like,
but the context of that story,
yes,
junkyard was the correct term to use.
Yeah, for the time, yeah.
They found that car literally in a junkyard that was to be scrapped.
It wasn't for cars to be recycled and resold for good stuff.
I thought that was in perfect context, and I understand you busting me on that.
Interesting. Okay.
Because usually we've got a sign right in our front lobby that says don't use the J word. Mm-hmm. Because we're a professional automotive dismantling facility. We got systems that are powered by technology. It's quite a place. And so for us, it's way different than it, but it is still our junkyard.
Yeah. All right. I'll allow it, but
I did let it slide with Craig because I thought it was the context of the story was appropriate.
And normally, if I used it, you would jump in and say,
I would.
That's not something we normally, but I'll allow it in the context of the story. You just, when Craig Jackson says it, you let it slide.
I like jumping on your stories anyway.
That's true. You sure do. Let's go to Hawaii and talk to Jasmine. You're on the Under the Hood show. Jasmine, what can we do for you?
Hi.
Aloha.
Hi, aloha.
Hawaii, did I hear that right?
Welcome to the show. What can we do for you?
I'm in Maui. I live in West Maui, Hawaii.
Okay.
We just survived the West Maui fires.
Yes.
And all I have is my truck.
Oh.
I lost my house, everything. But
how
I
tragic.
have a Toyota Tacoma. It's going to be all right. I just had some questions because there's not a lot of options around here for mechanics. So I just had some questions.
Okay.
I listen to your show, and I respect your guys' advice.
Thank you.
It's good to get a team together and figure this out. And this is not my home, my vehicle, but I do have a 02 Toyota Tacoma. It only has 86,000 miles on it. I put an original price. Around here, it's a good thing to have, especially now. But, well, at first it wouldn't turn left. I think I left you that message. But I got it fixed. I got that. It's $3,200.
Oh.
Oh, my.
For a radiator and all that.
Oh, my.
That's expensive, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm going to guess things cost a lot more where you're at because your infrastructure is kind of messed up,
But that
too.
sounds like even Hawaii expensive.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah, when your home's burnt down and, yeah, you got what you got. The question is as far as vehicle goes. I've looked at Kelley Blue Book. It's different here than it is.
Hawaii is a big Toyota state.
It's a big Toyota state. That's
Yeah.
correct.
But this truck's sat idle for about
and it sit for 4 to 5 years.
Okay.
So it's rusted on the bottom. And I live right across the street from the ocean, like used to, kind of still do.
Okay.
So I have a lot of wear and tear under there. I don't know how much money I want to put into this truck, but I don't have a lot of options.
The thing you need to look at, the thing that you need to look at, we were in Hawaii, not in Maui, not so long ago, and I kind of feel bad because we were there recreating and you're trying to survive, and that just doesn't feel right. But when you look underneath your truck, you got to have somebody look at the structural integrity of the frame. That is still a framed vehicle. It has a solid channeled frame from front to back, from front bumper bolts to rear bumper bolts. That's a frame. And where your shock absorbers mount on, where your leaf springs mount on, where on the front, where the independent front suspension comes together, where the control arms are at, that integrity has to be there. We see vehicles here in South Dakota when we're home that have got newer Tundras, Tacomas, where they have rusted out and they're taken off the road because they are unsafe. They're going to break. And so we saw a lot of those vehicles out along the ocean where you'd see the roof with rust on them from the ocean salt along the coast. And so I think it would be very, very important living there that as often as you can, that you clean that if you can with, I don't know what options are available for cleaning that off with fresh water.
Well, that, and then also like we have for salt, NHOilUndercoating.com, that New Hampshire oil undercoating, they use that all around the world. So
that's a really good point, Russ.
Yeah, so that even if you're in an area with no snow, salt protection by a product like that.
So
is
however, she has to find out first if it's worth,
if it's even worth it in the
on
first,
this
like
one.
structural.
Is the
And we're
integrity
talking
there?
safety, yeah.
So if the integrity of the frame is still there, and you can get something that looks scaly and gross, but if you start giving it the test where you're taking a nail and just start scraping on it, or taking a hammer and hitting on it,
and it's soft,
and you can still feel that hey, that's solid metal, and these crucial welding and joint points don't look like they're rusted out. That would be a good opportunity to get that thing cleaned up and use some New Hampshire oil undercoating product on it to try to slow that rust down.
And
if
not,
that's the only vehicle you got, if not, your only other choice is you got to keep it clean as best you can, and that's not easy there.
so on this case, what you're saying is she needs to find out the structural integrity of it before she starts putting any more money into it.
That's my opinion.
Because if it's unsafe or it's beyond bringing it back, it still might be okay to drive, but not okay to try and put more money into.
And they're in a situation where it might be different. We've had people come to us with Nissans, Toyotas, where the frames are rusted out. They go to an alignment shop. They tell them the frame is rusted out, but yet we've seen people take plate steel and weld it to the side of the frame beyond where the thing is at, and make a channel that's bigger than the channel of the frame to make a reinforcement, like you're sleeving a truck frame. Like when you have a custom truck,
they sell some of those aftermarket too.
yeah, they often extend a frame or they shorten a frame to fit the upfitter's utility on there. Nowadays, most of them can be ordered right to spec with the frame that you need. But back in the day, it was always they had one length of frame, and you stretched it or strengthened or lengthened it or shortened it to match your utility that you're putting on it. That's kind of the same thing you end up doing with a if you're in a trouble situation like this, you got to keep your vehicle going. You find some craftsman with a welder, kind of your modern day blacksmith, and they make something to reinforce that frame and keep it going. Because there's your other options to find a frame, and there's very few of them out there that aren't getting bad.
So Jasmine, I hope that helps you out a little bit. That's a tough one.
The frame is legit.
The frame is okay.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Solid. Yes. But I did appreciate what was the enamel that you were talking about
Well,
to secure it, to keep it safe.
If you
Because
go to-
this is kind of all I got going right now.
Yeah, if you go to NHOilUndercoating.com, they have multiple products for protecting vehicles from rust. So it keeps the salt out, it pushes the moisture out, and protects those things from rust. And that can work on anything. It's made for frames underneath, not the outside, but it can be used. People use it all the time up and down along the coast in the United States for salt spray protection, even if they don't have snow and ice. We use it where we're at to protect from the salt they put on the road, because they just pour that salt on and it gets up inside like the salt spray. And I've seen some of the cars in Hawaii where there'll be ones on the coast that are really rusted out, and on the other side of the island, you've got ones that are beautiful. It just depends on if you're leeward or not, and what you get for. I mean, you see that there too. When somebody got a friend living on one side and they're rusted out, and the other side they're not.
And that is also there. We should tell Jasmine that's That's a company we've worked with. We do
For a long time.
There are others like that, and you can maybe where you are, NH oil undercoating's not available, and you can find one that is. But that's we're just using that as the example because that's one we work with.
Maybe they could start a franchise there.
Oh, there you go.
Because NH, seriously, it's probably not the first thing on people's mind.
Right.
But New Hampshire Oil Undercoating is always looking for people to start franchises and do mobile. I don't know if they have anything in Hawaii or not.
Maybe if you're a person in Hawaii who has a shop, you could look into
something to do, and maybe you can help Jasmine out.
Jasmine, thank you so much for the call. It was good luck with everything. It's so great to finally talk to her after
because we're
so
at a
far
different
behind
time zone, and now that we're on later and also in an closer to there, we're 4 hours ahead.
She's finally able to call because we're not on at 1 in the morning. So thanks for the call, Jasmine. Good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Johnny in Oklahoma. Johnny, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yes, I was calling. You had a comment on a gentleman that was having problems with his Jeep Wrangler and the camshaft position sensor. And I've had a 09 and a 14. And the issue I found out with that was the pigtail. If you replace the pigtail to it, it would take care of the issue.
We've had so many cars that have had pigtail issues, and sometimes you don't even know. It's the one where somebody typically, they'll call and Shannon will say, well, what did you do? Well, I unplugged it, I put a new one in, and it only worked for a few days. So it was bad, so I took it back. Yeah. And then I unplugged it, put a new one in, and it worked for a few days. And then it did it again, so I got another one. So I must be bad sensors. If all they sold was bad sensors, then they wouldn't be in business
very long.
So it's probably the pigtail. That is always good advice. Always good to hear.
And people move them around, just the art of changing it changes things. And sometimes that makes it work just because you changed it.
Johnny, thanks very much for the call. That's one of the, if you've never heard the show, that is one of the best things about this show is when somebody will call who had a problem and fixed it.
Hoodies helping hoodies.
Yeah.
Hoodies helping hoodies.
Oh, we've got a Facebook page. We got a group page that we've created for that just because I was getting so many calls.
The Under the Hood Show car question group.
Yeah,
so you can go there and crowdsource answers. Mechanics get in there and they'll help.
There's guys on there that I think, ooh, if one of us ever goes down, these guys could fill in. There's a few guys on there
they
that
could all fill in for me.
On there every day, just really drilling down. There's been times where you've gone, this guy nailed. Wow, I didn't think of that. And that's
one of the girls that do it.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
Surprises. I mean, it's like all the people that call us. That really surprises me that how much so many people know.
We have
how
a call.
little I know.
There's the chat on YouTube is going crazy, pretty good. So let me jump in with one of these. 08 Trailblazer SS 6.0 all-wheel drive, suspected motor oil leak between differential and oil pan. Do you think this is something that could wait until spring? Yeah. Mechanic suspects that is the issue. The pan itself is dry. What should I do? I'm ready to tear into it this weekend.
Well, I think we still have a lot of time left before winter. And I could be wrong, but it appears that way. We've had some pretty soft winters, but we've also had weather. I can remember in South Dakota where the weather was very warm, warmer than expected, kind of like this, maybe not this warm, and all of a sudden within 10 days, we had a foot of snow on the
I thought
ground.
you meant this warm as it is here in Scottsdale.
It's going to be 106 here today.
This is perfect. Okay. This is a balmy, cool weather, breeze. It's beautiful. I love it.
So you've got in that vehicle, the front differential is mated to the oil pan in that vehicle.
Yes.
The project of doing what you need to do in that vehicle is a complete PIA.
Project.
It's a complete PIA. And I would not want to do it until I absolutely knew I had to do it. Period.
Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Just roll with it for
I guess the question, and we can't get active with the chat, but if it's running oil out onto the ground every night, and it's an active leak, you can't ignore it.
No, it'll burn it up.
You'll have a problem.
Then you're replacing it.
But if you're doing a little bit of a drip, you might try some seal conditioners. Like Justice Brothers, our partners, got some seal conditioners you can use. Sometimes that will work and slow some of that stuff down. It's not like a stop leak of any sort, but it can be it can help. We've seen it help. But if it's a running leak, you need to make a plan.
Okay. Tear into it this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's okay. All right, what else is...
Be prepared, watch YouTube videos, to not be able to get the corroded differential disconnected from the oil pan.
Oh, yeah. So there's an adapter in there,
Hey, is this the car that was sitting right behind us? Or no, that's a different
Yes,
one.
that's the one.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's going to break. That's a 301, 1980 Firebird Trans Am. One family owner is what
Why
the
are you
description
enabling
was.
him?
Oh, that's the car. I was curious what it'd go for.
We're
'cause
both
that's
interested.
A beautiful car. I mean, that's a car that I'd say, if that's going to bring like 17, 18 grand, I wish I would have had a bidder number and bought it because it's amazing.
Oh, I see what's going on here.
And it's not going to bring 17 or 18.
let's-
It's 17, 20, 17, 18. 18.
It's making that gold one
we have
yesterday look better.
We might be hearing a heartbreak right now.
Oh, guys, I got to go to the bathroom.
Exciting.
Yeah. Run, Shannon, run.
I can turn the speakers up really loud.
No,
we
we're
can see
good.
if you can get the.
No, I should have bought the gold one yesterday.
Okay.
That was,
If you ran in there screaming right now, you might be able to catch
I could do it. I could make a scene.
It's still going. I mean, it's not. There's.
Oh, no, I
there's
think
chit
it
chat.
could pass the 20. That's
Oh boy.
pretty
The
cool.
gold one yesterday only had 60,000 miles on, or 6,000 miles on it.
Well, that's different.
Yeah, that was a whole different deal. I should have.
This is.
That's a beautiful car.
That's a good price.
As those cars go, that is a nice. And again, that is a car that if you're, I mean, and that was not too hard to work on. So I mean, if you're a high school kid, and the choice is either a $24,000 Chevy truck or something. I mean, I would have
thought that would have brought more than that.
Yeah, that's a hot car for anybody.
All right, we derailed
For Chris.
completely
Chris
there.
is like, why don't I have it? All right, go. Where
They're
we
still
at?
they're still bidding. They're still trying to get a little more for it.
I'm thinking you've done a yeoman's job during this to stay on topic because I turned and I was lost there for a minute and I don't even. That's not my thing.
My brain jumps around a little bit. It can handle a few things at once usually.
That IROC, I was thinking
Way to go.
17.5.
Yeah, this is actually a 350 IROC, which
Yep.
was not as many of them were 5.7.
T-top, 88.
How many miles were on it, Russ? I didn't even look.
I didn't either.
But this is you've lost us now.
This is the
Okay.
worst episode of Under the Hood ever.
All right.
Well, these two
distraction.
cars
Somebody
were
turn
sitting,
it
these two cars were sitting right behind
Yeah,
us.
that's why they were.
And they moved them out for the Friday sale, and next to it they've got a Bandit Trans Am that's going to be on the Saturday sale, I believe. That's 11,000 mile Survivor, which I'm really curious about. These cars were cars that Russ and I grew up with. Chris, you two, they were all around. I mean, you saw the Mustang GTs, the IROCs, the Daytonas, if you want to bring them into the picture. That was cars that we grew up around thinking like, oh my gosh, those were cool. And so,
I had a bunch of them. They were never that pretty though, even though they were only a few years old. It's amazing how you can trash a car. Somebody else could trash a car in 4 or 5 years, and
I know who
now
brought
they're-
both these cars here, and I think they had higher expectations.
Oh,
All right, so can I get you guys
Yeah,
back
we're
now
back,
for a
we're
second?
back, yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Indiana and talk to Christoph. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, good morning, gentlemen, or good afternoon. I guess you guys are.
Yeah, it's weird to us,
hanging
too.
out there in Phoenix. How's it going?
it's amazing out here.
Yeah. Hey, look, I'm at work right now. I work for Berkeley One, and my boss doesn't know
Cool.
I'm on the phone.
Oh, we won't tell them.
But I'm hoping you guys can help me out. with something.
Nobody's listening here at all. So
Quiet.
quiet, guys, close your ears.
Excellent, most excellent. Since you guys have a view of the stage, I would like to either score the car that I first learned to drive on, which is a 1985 Ford Escort station wagon, preferably in brown. That would be fantastic.
Wow.
If one of those happens to float by, grab Tim's credit card and just snag it for me.
You must have been
Oh,
so
I hear-
cool.
I hear one in the
high
background
school.
right
I think
now.
that's an Escort back
Yeah.
there.
That was an 85 Escort. They just started up in the background.
Pro mod.
Yeah. No Escorts so
Yeah,
far.
it was the car that got me from home to high school and out and about. And I grew up in Pennsylvania, in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And
Oh yeah.
hopefully my parents aren't listening. But it was a fun little car to play car tag in. So that's what country folk do when they run out of things to do after dark.
Car tag.
Don't ask. We don't.
I think I know.
Don't
yeah,
ask.
I do too. I don't want to be on record, recorded talking about it.
Don't do that. You just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it never happened. But Hey, listen, I'm curious. Are you guys gonna bid on a car? Have you done any bidding?
I did bid yesterday on a car. I actually had to look at the camera and say no. I put in 2 bids on an 80 gold solar gold Trans Am that had 6,000 miles on it. And that's what I was just talking about when this other one went across the stage. I do have a bit of a kick myself on that. That was a good value on that car, and I probably should have bought it. But the reality is I have nowhere to put it.
What were you, like $1,000 away?
I was I can proudly say I was the second to last bid.
And I was there, and it was, I think if you'd have gone one more, you would have had it.
It was unexpected. I went up on stage, told my wife and we were sitting together, that I was going to go look at it, and next thing you guys know, I'm up there bidding.
It was pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, I would assume that you had to register in
that
order
was
to
part
bid.
of the, you know what, hey, Christoph, that was part of the process. When we got here and I saw that Quadzilla sell, I said, okay, we better get a number. This might be necessary. So we went through the registration process, and having not done it ahead of time, I had some rock stars back home help me from the bank, and our CFO, Nick, back at the office. We had to have letters from the bank. We had to have authorizations of accounts. We had to have copies of our sales tax license, our dealer's license. In this case, you don't have to be a dealer, but since we were, I did.
Mm-hmm.
And we had to bring all that stuff together, and there was like 10 documents you have to produce. Small DNA sample.
An easy process if you're ahead of time, right?
Yeah, the DNA was, I gave them some fake hair, and they didn't take it, so I had to get the real stuff.
Yeah.
And there was, there was a process, but the guys, he was a gentleman. They had a distinct process they had to follow. They take your pictures, so now I got my bidder number here. With my
Don't
picture
show
on
it. Don't show it. People will start bidding.
They could, but yeah, so we did get that process down, and we did not buy the premium bidding package. It cost $375 for the basic, but for $500 you get to come to the party. And Tim had already invited us to the party, so I didn't have to pay for that.
Right.
And then we found out you get drinks with it, but there's only 6, so got a dollar cost average a little bit. So we bought the cheap package.
Yeah.
So we're getting in on the experience.
That's awesome. And you were able to pull off all that work without your wife noticing. That's what would have tripped me up, is I would have been stopped halfway through that.
She knew. Our CFO's second question on his first question on the text that I sent him was, "Is this a scam?" Because I was asking for bank account information. And his second question, he goes, "Does Tammy know?"
Which, by the way, if you text a scam and somebody texts, "Is this a scam?" Isn't the answer always no?
Yeah.
It should be.
It's not. That's not quite two-factor authentication there.
Yeah, that blue Trans Am that just sold like 3 minutes ago just pulled up behind us again.
It was parked behind us, and now it's
Shannon's like really second guessing himself.
No, I
Like,
looked
what
at it
am I
yesterday.
doing?
I love that. That is a good color, though.
There's only one drawback of that whole car.
301 turbo.
If that was an LS conversion car right now, or a 455 conversion, I think Shannon might own it.
Then I wouldn't have to do mine.
Oh boy.
There you go.
All right, since you're at work and you have time to kill because your boss is out of town, you got any other questions?
I'm kind of curious because you guys always do the color thing, and you're sitting there looking at a lot of cars with different colors. What's the wildest color that's out there?
Well, I have another
or
question.
The wildest color you've seen on a
Here,
car?
right now, I could name it right off.
Me too.
Right off.
I have one.
Okay.
Is it going to be the same?
Who goes first?
I think it is going to. Did you see the car? Or did you see a picture of the
It's
car?
technically, they call it a truck.
Yeah.
Is that the one?
Yeah.
And it's electric.
There is
The
a
electric Cybertruck.
lime
Yes.
fluorescent green
Lime
The Ram
Cybertruck.
Cybertruck.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's two
We
of
saw
us
that last
right
night.
off that were thinking the same thing.
It
My
didn't
wife
pop into
showed
my
it
head
to me.
until you said it.
It
That
is.
thing is a lime green.
It's strikingly fluorescent
It's
green.
exit sign green.
It's tennis ball green, but
Yeah, whatever.
if the tennis ball were powered by LEDs, it is a bright.
boy.
I have a question for you though, since this is.
I am
this
going to
is-
step out for just a second.
Wait, you gotta wait. Why? Are you going to bid on
it's
something?
this color.
Are you?
No, I have to just go for a second.
Okay. I know what that means. What I want to do before you leave, quick.
That's not your
What
car.
color the Escort? What color do you think his Escort was? Maroon. Okay. Before I have you, Christoph, we can't hear you, so let me ask. This is the Berkeley One Classics. What color was that Classic?
Oh, it was definitely brown, and I don't mean rusty.
Oh,
it was
shoot.
that
That's what I was gonna go
brown.
with too. So I'm gonna go with yellow. All right.
That is the color. It was the least attractive brown you could imagine put on a car.
That's what I would have said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you must have been so
that was-
cool.
If you knew me in high school, there was nothing cool about me, but fortunately, I outgrew that.
I didn't have to know you in high school to catch that one.
Oh, nice. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much
so
for
I
the
see
call.
Tim has done the prep work that I asked him to do.
Exactly. Thanks for the call, man.
Chris, you remember the call we had years ago, and the guy says, "Yeah, I just got this beautiful '93 Buick LeSabre. Man, that thing's a chick magnet." And you said,
I don't remember.
"What's the demographic of the chicks?"
That's the brown Escort station wagon is that's.
I can remember it may have even had wood on the outside of it.
I think that's fantastic.
The sticker peel wood.
As a parent, I think that's fantastic. That's the car I want. Like my daughter said she said, when I get my license, can I have our Ford Windstar? And I said, no, you can't have a minivan. Matter of fact, when you're in high school, you can't even get in a van.
No.
I don't want you anywhere. I'm buying you a 2-seater.
Chris, could you ever resist peeling off the fake wood grain on a car that was, like if it was a family car where you might be able to get away with it, like when it would peel because it was just cheap and stuck on you?
Fake?
Yes. It's like
I would.
grandma put on the shelves. You just start peeling it off a piece at a time.
No, yeah, that would have been. I would have done it.
Yeah.
I would have gotten it clean. You wouldn't even have known though, because I would have put the time in.
You would have took it all off.
That was always my problem too. When I was a kid, I would do stuff to get in trouble, but I would be invested in it, so I wouldn't run.
I would first vehicle wraps.
Yeah, exactly.
Wood grain. You can buy wrap for vehicle now in wood grain. Why?
I'm down with that. Let's go to North Dakota and talk to Ryan. You're on the Under the Hood show, Ryan. What can we do for you?
So I have a 2007 Avalon, 200,000 miles, and I keep getting a reoccurring C005102 sensor code.
Okay.
Bang 2S1. I've replaced it twice, and I'm still getting the primary 0051 code with 2 additional secondary codes.
So, again, we've had those O2 sensors. They're so hot where they're located that the wiring connectors to them can be a problem. The wiring itself can be a problem. But unfortunately, on that Toyota Avalon, Chris's kid had one.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a number of those with failed computers. So we start by testing the sensor. We'll test at the sensor with our voltmeter and make sure we got a good signal there that's similar to the other sensor. And then we will test right at the computer. And if we've got a good signal on both of them, that indicates the computer has failed. Unfortunately, that would be a bad thing. They're getting a little more tricky to find, but you can still find them for an Avalon. I mean, they're possible.
Jump on Cardash one of our partners. You can find that computer, and there'll be a recycler somewhere in the country near you that will have one of those computers, and they can be reused.
Okay. So it's not likely a CAT converter or exhaust manifold or any evap problem then?
No, I mean, first you got to check that voltage, because if you check the voltage and you find, let's say you look at one sensor and the readings are crazy on it, and you've checked right at the sensor and the other ones are good. If you pull both those sensors out and you switch them left to right and you check them and the problem, follows the sensor, it's a bad sensor. But if you put 2 of them in the same hole and they're bad, but they work fine in the other one, then that tells me that you probably have an actual condition with the engine, or you've got an injector that's leaking air around it, or it's not firing properly, or it's clogged up, or you've got a problem with the evap system. Any one of those things could be the problem.
Does that help you out there, Ryan?
Yep, thank you.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. And again, if anybody here wants to ask a question, we can do that too as well.
Was I right on the Escort color when I ran away to go check on something?
No, Russ had it. It was brown.
The ugliest shade of brown you could ever imagine on a Ford product, he said.
I know the color. Mm-hmm. They put it on Ranger pickups too in that era.
Sure did, yeah.
Yeah, same color. Was not good.
Not the Ranger Splash, though.
No.
They were.
Hey, look, there's a 454 SS on the screen.
Formerly fastest truck in the state of Hawaii, right?
Is he listening, you think?
That's a good question.
And that's a couple years. His is an 03
this is
or
this
4.
is the same as Brownie's truck, I think.
His is a 3 or 4. I'm sure of that.
You think so?
Yeah, and definitely. I've worked on it a lot.
You've worked on it. That's
but
right.
This is the 90. So this is a So when this truck first came out, this is a 454 SS, 1990 two-wheel drive truck. I remember when it came out, and we were all excited. Down in Texas, we had it out to the dealership to see it. And
You
we
can
thought,
get 2 screens going right now on your computer. This would be perfect.
Yeah, we thought it was going to be a monster truck, like super fast, super powerful, and we drove it and went, whoa. And then we ran into a couple people that were a little older that bought these trucks, and the first thing they did was put a set of headers on them, change the fuel injection up a little bit, change the cam, and they were a very fast truck, but they were so pollution controlled.
Yeah, they were just. Blah.
What's a big block in 1990?
Look at what this thing's bringing. It's up to $42,000.
It's a collector for sure. It's a Berkeley One Classic.
Definitely.
For sure. We're up to 45 grand on it, and it's still.
I guess black.
I'm going with black. Yeah.
With red trim.
Red trim.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's definitely a. I knew it'd bring some money. That's a little more than I thought it would bring.
I think it's worth it.
After watching all these cars go across the auction block, it's interesting how I've developed a sense of how long it sits in front. You can sense how
they'll keep it as long as people. If people went back and forth, I think they'd keep it 10 minutes if people were actively bidding every few seconds.
But they're not going to wait for nothing.
Going and going. Right. Otherwise, you're like, come on.
No, that's when I was up there on stage bidding. They looked at me and it was like, "Are you going to bid?" And then the one guy was making a joke saying, "Did you say please?" He was telling the gal in front of me, asked if she said please, and she said please, and I said no, and they were done. I mean, they're moving along. They got this sale. They're selling 800 to 900 cars this week.
Yeah.
Their normal Scottsdale winter sale,
in January.
2,300, 2,400 vehicles.
Yeah,
and they do
really
it
moving.
Same amount of time.
Well, and more hours though.
Yeah.
Because here we're starting at what 11:45 or so.
Noon, I think, is the
something like that.
auction block.
Yeah. So I started rolling. They'll roll earlier with the other ones.
And they just sell now until their Friday docket is done. So if they get done at whatever time, that's what time they get done. I'm sure they got to control that a little bit for TV.
Yeah.
Do they ever? I wonder.
You got to come out here to Barrett Jackson at least once in your life. You know, kind of a bucket list thing. You should, if you ever get the chance, I would highly recommend it because there's so much more here than just what you see on that screen that we're seeing on TV. I mean, from our vantage point, we can see a lot of stuff, but not in here. It's amazing.
At a minimum, it's an awesome car show.
It's kind of like it's
the best ever.
When we talk about SEMA, but people say they can't go because they're not in the automotive industry. Well, you can go here and you can see all of this. You can get a ticket. You can come check it out. You may even find yourself going home with a car, Shannon.
Plan ahead.
The part where Craig talked about how they make sure they check the car out. I'm going to play that for my wife just in case. So because
there's a Beetle for you over here.
So far,
with a trailer,
my car picking has not been top notch. So I don't know that my wife would trust me to buy a car. So I'm going to use that as.
How about the '67 just Mustang over here?
Yeah, that
She's
one.
okay
She
for
would
her?
love with that. Yeah.
She okay with the color?
I also, when we were talking about Carfax and stuff, I remember asking Russ, "Can you tell me?" My wife saying, "Can Russ tell you how much you spent on your car, like over the car you bought? Can Russ give you an itemized list of how much you've spent?" I said, "I think so, yeah." And then Russ gave me the list, and I said to my wife, "Nope, he can't. Oh, he cannot do that. That's a bummer." You got a question over there? All right, let's go. Let's go to the crowd. Hi, welcome to the Under the Hood Show.
Thanks, guys. This is Kevin from Berkeley One.
Okay.
My girlfriend has a 2018 Jeep Compass. It's had some starting issues. Battery's fine. You get in, you push the button, everything lights up, and it just won't turn over. Alternator, starter.
That's because it's a 2018 Jeep Compass.
Yeah, do you have it pointed the right direction?
So far,
it's a compass.
Like
you have to get it pointed due north for it to start.
Yeah.
Oh, good one.
If it's in the wrong position, it will not fire.
It's usually east.
Okay, that's the problem. Park in a different direction, it'll fire right up.
I put a starter on one of these a week ago.
Yeah.
And it definitely had a bad starter. But then we realized that we're big about, we want to find out what was the cause of the problem. We don't want to just throw a starter on it, right?
Right.
Well, it was the engine.
It was what?
It was
Don't tell him
It was
that.
full of water. It was locked up.
Don't
Had a
tell
head
him that.
gasket out. But we have put a number of starters on the Jeep Compasses over the time. So yes, they will just quit. They'll sound like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I did that pretty good the first
You
time.
did that pretty good.
yeah.
But
Not the second time.
it's intermittent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So the starter's spinning. It's got an armature in there, and when you look at it, it's got a bunch of little copper grooves with separated. If it lands on the one that has got a little burnt mark on it, just right, it won't go. But as the temperature changes on the engine, either warming up or cooling down as it sits overnight, it'll move just a little bit. The metal contracts, it moves just enough that it engages, and when you hit it, it'll fire and go. Or it'll get a spark in there, an arc, and it'll take off and go when you hit the key.
If you know where the starter's at and you've got a simple multimeter,
Or a hammer.
Well, just next time it doesn't
Dead blow hammer.
Next time it doesn't start and it's doing that, put your leads on there and just see what voltage. If you have full voltage there, if you got 12 volts and it's not starting, it's the starter.
Okay.
And most likely that's what it is.
It's in the shop now, so we'll find out soon enough.
Well, that's the worst part, though. If they've got it at the shop and it doesn't cause that problem or doesn't have the problem when they're there, you might end up just spending a lot of money. So
yeah,
it's best when it's broken when they fix it.
Yes. Yes.
Well, right now it is.
Okay, it's not starting at all. They'll find it then.
Yeah.
If it's not starting at all, they'll find it.
Awesome.
There you go. Thanks very
guys.
much. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Enos. You're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I have a Chevy Impala, and it's got 103,000 miles on it. And the outside, or the air diverter to outside or to cabin air, the door on it is a curved door, and it'll open about 1 inch, and then it'll vibrate really fast, back and forth, and it'll start in doing this as soon as I open the door.
Yep.
Front door, back door.
Sounds like
it'll
that,
start
Chris.
opening up that door to get outside air, but it only opens 1 inch. Then it just vibrates back and forth, and then after 50 seconds, it'll shut off or open up.
Yeah. So that's a recirculation door motor, and that's very common. All those motors that are under the dashboards of modern cars, it's like an old erector set motor. It's got a little tiny motor with a plastic gear on it, and there's a plastic gear on the door itself that actuates it. But then there's a sensor in there. They call it a wiper, and it's a little sensor. It looks like an old slot car controller rheostat where we used to play with those cars when we were kids. And as it moves, if there's a dead spot on that sensor, it will lose conductivity. So it stops. It gets to a certain point and it says, whoa, what's going on? And it can't read. So it'll either try to go the other direction or it'll completely stop. Or if the gear has a worn spot in it, which is the most common, it'll come to that and it'll click. It can't get past that spot on the sensor, and it just goes click, 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 click. And what happens is when you go to open the door, the car, when you shut it off and walk away from it, it moves and tries to move into the recirculation mode and closes everything off. But then when you open the door, the body control module activates everything, and that door motor takes off and goes back into its last known position. And if it happens to be open air and it wasn't recirculate, it's going to move so much, and it gets to that dead spot and goes click, click, click. Some of these cars are pretty easy to change those motors out. 10, 15 minutes. Other ones, you got to pull the entire dash. I believe on this Impala, though, it's one that's about 30 minutes or so. You pull the glove box door out, and you can get up in there. It's a little tight, but you can get in there and change this motor for the recirculation.
And where do you get a motor for that?
You can pick that up at pretty much any auto parts store, and you're going to be looking at probably anywhere from $35 to $50 for that part is a common price for it. So it's not a huge expense.
And that's a part that Dorman Products, one of our partners, would make, and they make a really good piece for that.
They make a set. They fail so often, they make a full set in a box of all 4 of them.
Is he fixing that, or is he bringing it in to get done?
We can give it a shot, and if he can't do it, if he looks it up on YouTube, can't do it himself, he could always bring it in. Like to me, I've had customers say, I tried to put this in and I couldn't. Well, it's not broken. I'll go ahead and put it in.
Okay. Enos, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. That's what you want to hear. Because on some cars, when it seems as simple as that, it's a whole thing. So this is a nice one for him to try and track down. The cars come. Did you notice how I haven't even glanced behind me while these cars are going?
Well, we
past?
have these cars starting up behind us, and you can hear the horsepower behind us, and some of these cars are starting. I kind of want to know what it is.
Right, but
There's
do you
one
notice?
up there my wife wants right now going across. It's one of the several
What
of
did
the
this one
same
have
model
for a
vehicles.
drivetrain? 'Cause this one over here's got an LS3 in it. Did this one have a custom V8 in it or anything?
I believe it does, yeah. I didn't look at all the ones she had because I was like, I don't know if I'm
Yeah,
gonna...
this one over here behind us is a very nice customization.
Captain Kirk, William
Do you-
Shatner's 16 Jaguar is going to roll.
Do you notice how? Have I looked over there at all?
Well, here's
No.
Craig talking to Shatner. He said he had just talked to him, and when he was down here at the beginning of the show, we had Craig Jackson here for the first half hour, and that was quite a treat to have him live on the show with us here. And so now William Shatner's on stage talking about his 2016 Jaguar F-Type convertible that they're going to sell.
That's amazing how young Shatner looks. I mean, if I was to look at him and I'd never met him before, didn't know him, I'd say he's probably in his 70s, right? Late 70s.
What age is he again?
I think he's 93. Producer Doug, is Shatner 93?
How old is he?
Very close. 2, 3. Yeah, so he, for his age, anybody,
I want
that's
that
amazing.
shirt. I can't even
Yeah, I
make
like the shirt.
Atari
I
shirt
can't
he has
even
on?
make the joke about how professional and good I am because you're so distracted. I can't get that point across. You
Yeah.
I'm talking to.
I
You,
was
Shannon.
just distracted.
Yeah, I know. I can't even say that's me locked in, not turning to look is my professionalism and my skill, and I can't even.
Your professionalism is off the charts compared to mine.
Yeah, I can't even.
I want to be 93 in shape like that, doing what I love, working on cars.
I wish I were in that shape now.
Up there on the stage, just belting it out like, hey, man, this car is great. Check this thing out. It's awesome.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Bob. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Bob is calling from South Dakota. Go ahead.
Hi, guys. Love the show. Thanks.
Thanks you.
I have a 2022 GMC with a 6.0 gas in it. It says Premium 91 recommended. Is it okay to use 87?
I would prefer that you didn't.
It will work because it's recommended, doesn't mean required. There are a number of them that say required, like if you got a Rover and it says required or E85 required, you got to use it. You will cause engine damage over a long period. But even on ones that are recommended, you drive one of those with 87 in it for its entire life, when it starts getting up there over 100,000 miles, it is going to show signs of wear and age because you didn't use what was recommended. It was, it's like me and Chris. It's like, we want to live to be that 93 and be car guys, but I'm looking at the concession stand saying, boy, that cookie looks good. Recommended is a nice Caesar salad, but cookie looks
How
good.
about 88?
Well,
88.
I would recommend that the E8.
All right, I got.
That's better.
Now Chris is
Yeah,
gone.
Go ahead. We'll come back to it. Go ahead.
Was that Jaguar?
Yeah.
That's really a neat car. But that 2022 model that you've got there has got the direct injected motor in it, and it's got a high volume injection system, and I want to put good fuel in that.
Yes.
And that 87 is going to work most all the time. But like in my 22 with a 6.2, if I put 87 in there because that's just all I got where we're at for a second, I can notice it immediately. I can hear detonation. The computer almost can't keep up with the detonation on that motor, and so I choose to run E30 in it, and when it's recommended 91, and it works perfect. I get the octane that I want, and it works perfect for me in that truck. And I've ran it since it was brand new with E30 in it.
And the good news is though for Bob is that
And it's not a flex fuel truck. Sorry, I said that out loud.
If he's somewhere where he can't get 91, he can put 87 in it to get home or get wherever he needs to be, and then try and run at least 91 in there, right?
I'd recommend it in that truck. Yep, for sure.
Does that help you out there, Bob?
Thanks, guys. Love the show. Thanks for doing it.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for the call. 866-594-4150. We've got Doug is on the phones taking calls. We've got a couple coming in.
It's like when you watch a charity fundraiser and there's people up talking, and then they show the call bank, and they're all waiting to find out what the call bank has just had happen. Oh, we just had a $100,000 donation, and Doug's taking it right now because see the smile on his face.
There is a Jaguar E-Type that is about to go on the block. It was behind us.
Expensive type?
Just
E-Type?
drove it past us. That one's pretty cool too.
That is really cool.
And that Jaguar, I think, is the prettiest car I've ever seen in my life. And it's going to go on that block in a minute. I'm going to pull a Shannon here in a second and just zone out. What time is that going? What number are we? This is the first time I've been like, oh, neat. Trying to figure out what it's coming. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
I got a note here
Phil.
from a friend. I got a note here from the friend of mine, and he says,
three-man show.
Travis, our Six Solutions, our
yeah,
provider
yeah.
at work. He says, Shannon, looking good on the show. Side note: if Tammy doesn't get that powder blue California, I'll be disappointed. So he must have saw your picture.
I'll be disappointed too.
I'll be less.
Less
I'll be
disappointed.
Less broke. I'll be less
broke.
broke.
I'll be
if-
more
if
broke.
she doesn't get the car, for sure.
All right, keep going. Talk.
Are you trying to find the number?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out. Is
Yeah.
that the-
Right now they're selling a '71 Chevrolet Suburban Custom, lowered a little bit. Looks like it's got about 20-inch wheels on it. All powder blue with a white top, and it is really clean looking. And they're paused on the downside of the ramp, and they're going to put the sale tag on it at $49,000. And so that one took off. It was like at 25, and then all of a sudden it just went after that. Very unique vehicle. I saw this one. This is a nice truck too.
Oh, we got a ways to go before the.
Do
jam.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
These pickups are really strong. You watch the auction, and the pickup stuff has really been strong. These short box, anything. Whether it's, they showed a Power Ram earlier that was a 1990 that looks super clean, brought $30,000. A plain Jane straight stick Power Wagon.
The Power Wagons have been bringing a lot of money lately.
Yeah,
They're
this was
super
this was a
collectors.
150 basic. I probably had a 6-cylinder in it. It looked like, but it was super clean, like brand new.
All right.
Are we reaching the
We
end?
got to our goal. We made it through.
Yeah.
Doug's still talking to somebody back there.
Yeah, he just told me they're just chatting. He's just over there
is
having
it just
fun
a friend?
talking. Yeah, I think so.
Phone a friend.
He's just
Doug.
using their internet.
He uses our long distance
They're
to
gonna
call
watch
his
a
family.
stage back for a band here before long, so they're gonna be like, "Get out!"
It's time to
Well,
go.
Doug's going to play. He's bringing the church choir here, and they're going to put on a show. And I didn't know they were here, but I think that's what he's working on.
Is that he's setting up?
me
these-
and Chris are gonna get
the
up
praise
there.
band is coming in.
We're just going for it.
All right, guys, we did our show at Barrett Jackson.
Yeah, thank you very much to Berkeley One Classic, celebrating 50 years of collector car coverage. Thank you, Craig Jackson, for being so gracious
Yeah,
to
that was
spend
awesome.
a half an hour with us.
That was awesome. That was
is-
really good.
That is amazing. We appreciate it. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate
Schwarzkopf,
that.
and is Norman his brother or relative, cousin, something like that? Has he been asked that 100 times? Okay, all right. Storm and Norman. I wanted to ask, but I just didn't.
You know
do
what's
it.
ironic? My wife is sitting over there. Jim, that was with us, looks just like my brother, doesn't he? Yeah, that was
Really?
Yeah,
right.
like almost identical. It was crazy.
And if to the folks that are here and hung out with us and were nice enough to not just walk out when we started, that there's a great group of folks here. Thanks very much for listening. You can find us at underthehoodshow.com. We do this on every week.
Yeah, tell
Thursday morning.
Russ, tell us the footprint though, just for the while we're signing off.
Oh,
What's the total footprint of our show and what we all do?
So as far as so this show here is on YouTube right now, and if you've been streaming it and watching it, there's not a lot of people go and watch a 2-hour show on YouTube, but that's kind of new to us. It's something we just add so people, they wanted to see us. I don't know why, but they did. But we're on about 250 radio stations all across the United States. We've been on since 1990. And we also, this show now, we're going to upload this. It'll go out to about 80,000 podcasters. So quite a bit. If you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of get a false impression of what's going on. And then if you go to Facebook, we've got well over 100,000 people there as well. And we'll be uploading a bunch of photos here from the auction to Facebook and Instagram. But you'll be able to go back and watch this. And if you want to catch that Craig Jackson interview, if you missed it at the beginning of the show, that'll be up on YouTube.
Yeah, we probably
right
carve
now.
that out maybe as a separate interview or something. Or
Yeah, I'm sure.
That'd be
sure we will to shorten it up.
that. So when we sit down in our own studio back in South Dakota,
the one in the picture,
we're doing all this stuff at once. We're broadcasting radio up to Westwood One satellites. Producer Doug gets it up there for us, all cleaned up gets the stupid stuff that I say taken out. Usually not a lot.
Not all of it.
Don't do it now.
It's your charm.
Part of it.
Yeah.
The
legal stuff.
But we actually get to broadcast live to our local biggest market. They trust us enough to let us broadcast live, and then all this other stuff Russ just described. It's awesome.
It is really fun. Our goal is to take calls and help people with their cars and just to have some fun. So thanks everybody for coming. You just said something that is the most true thing you've ever said in your entire life. You maybe have spoken the wisdom of the ages. Let's edit this out and post this. if you're looking at YouTube, you might get a false sense of the truth. So there you go. That, I mean, not in relation to us, just in general.
Yeah.
That was pretty profound there, pal. Way to go.
Are you looking at me or
Yeah,
him?
you.
Oh,
you
me?
said it. Yeah,
Oh,
see,
well,
you
that-
didn't even know.
I'm not looking at either one of you. I'm
That's
looking at
how
a
wise
86
you are.
GMC 2500 custom truck. See what it brings.
This is like the worst reaction show ever.
I
This is
that
like a
truck.
YouTube video.
I like the truck. My wife likes the truck. We used to have one of those. Remember, Michelle?
Shannon watches TV. Let's see what happens when Shannon sees a
My wife is amazing. She's
GMC
so
Sierra for the first
forgiving
time.
of the crap I buy and bring home and sell, and says, "Why did you sell
Oh.
that? Why did you buy that?"
I do want to
But you
point
can
out
go buy that.
we had a moment earlier when we got here that I thought was pretty another truth about Russ Evans.
Huh?
When we walked in, and everybody here will know this. When we walked in, there is you walk through a vendor hall, and one of the vendors is Sandvan. Was it Sandvan?
That sounds like it might be right.
Yeah. And they had
Oh, the
they
the
had
overland.
They had a big overland vehicle. Big. It looks almost like a Armageddon vehicle. Like
Oh,
it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
But
a
it came from
survivor.
Lethal Weapon or something.
Right, but it also is just a beautiful camper. I mean,
Mad Max.
it's stunning.
Huge beast.
Yeah, and Russ's wife said, "Oh my gosh, look at that! That is beautiful." And Russ said, "I could build that."
I could build that.
And she turned to me and went, "I would want to die if he started building this."
She said, "One more project, you're dead, man."
he'd be.
Your projects now are going to be.
He'd have free time because
Buy
he'd be
it.
doing it alone.
You're going to have to work on buying it. You're going to have to work at getting a bidder number to buy it. No
Yeah.
more physical labor to build it.
Right. All right, guys. Thanks very much for joining us for the Under the Hood show again. Thanks to Berkeley One. You guys have been great, and it's been fun. Just forget this. It's been fun hanging out this whole time. It's
For
really,
sure.
Yeah. And if you've never been to Barrett Jackson and you don't think you are the target or you don't think it would be that cool,
You are.
you're wrong.
You are.
It is.
It's amazing.
It's super fun. It really is. Thanks, everybody. It has been a blast. Music.